And we are live. This is Gauntlet Hangouts, specifically Gauntlet Comics, Masks: A New Generation, the best worst summer. I'm Chris Newton. I go by he/him pronouns. I'll be playing the GM, Master of Ceremonies, Editor in Chief. Number one comic book nerd, whatever you want to call me. I'll be the one running the game. We are here to play a 4-session series of Masks: A New Generation, a superhero teenage role-playing game from Magpie Games, written by Brendan Conway. We're playing it as part of Gauntlet Hangouts. If you want to find out more about that, you can visit us at gauntlet-rpg.com. We have forums, we have these Hangouts, we have Patreon, we have a Slack that you can get into through the Patreon, all sorts of things. Come check it out, join us. It's always fun. Okay, we've got our players are all here. I've introduced myself. I'll let folks go in the character keeper order. I believe that's going to start out with Alex. Please introduce yourself, your pronouns, and we'll go into character introductions a little bit later. This is just personal introductions right now.
Hi, I'm Alex Meltzner, currently using he, they pronouns. Been with the Gauntlet for a little over a year now. And yeah, I'll be playing the Star Playbook, but do character introductions later.
Vince, I think you're next up in the character keeper order now.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Hi, my name is Vince. He, him pronouns. I've been playing with the Gauntlet for a little over a year after I had a decent-sized hiatus. I have a 7-month-old child at home. And he's fantastic. But during those first few months with him, trying to find an uninterrupted 3 to 4 hour block of time to join into a game was pretty much impossible. But excited to be back.
Hey, I'm Ben Buckley. I take he, him pronouns, and this is my first game on the Gauntlet.
I'm interrupting to say welcome. Okay, sorry.
I am Brock McCord. My pronouns are he, him, and this is also my first game on the Gauntlet. I've been on the forums for a bit, I guess since they've launched actually, which was only a few months ago. But yeah, first game, so I'm excited.
I'm interrupting again to say welcome. How exciting.
Actually, Pearl, I think it's your introduction turn now.
I guess I interrupted myself. I am Pearl. I use she and her pronouns. This is not my first game on the Gauntlet. I've been around for about 2-ish months. So I'm newer than a lot of people, but not the newest in this game, which is actually pretty exciting because I'm often the newest player in games that I play. Every once in a while I get an entirely new player, but 2 in 1 game, and I'm so glad you're playing this one. Masks is super fun. So I'm really looking forward to playing with everyone here. I've played Masks only one other time. I became so obsessed with it that I harassed the GM to try to convince him to extend the session or extend the game for a month afterwards. And while he never did, he has been very tolerant. And Chris actually was in that game with me and was awesome. So, yay bats worm. But the only other thing I have to say before we do actual character introductions is that everyone here is more prepared than I am, which is the opposite scenario from everything I'm used to in life, and I'm really sorry that I am underprepared. But I'm really excited, and I will make up for being underprepared with my boundless enthusiasm.
Seems like great.
That'll work great. Okay. Looks like we've gotten through our basic introductions. On the Gauntlet, we also employ safety tools. The main safety tool we employ is the X card. If anything comes up during the game that is something that makes the game less fun for you, that hits a problem area for you, or that just makes you uncomfortable, either say, I'd like to X card that, make an X card in the chat window like this. You can type it into the chat. I'll try my best to keep an eye on all of those things. But if I miss it or it seems like I'm not catching it, you might have to just say it out loud, just so it'll catch my attention. Because I'm flipping between windows for source books and move sheets and all sorts of stuff during the game, and I am sure to miss at least one or two things. The other safety tools that I like to use are lines and veils. I've created a safety tool sheet inside the character keeper for this game. We're using an online spreadsheet character keeper that's part of the Gauntlet Hangouts online play resource folder. We have tons of that. You can find that again on our website, links to everything. And it gives all sorts of great tools to use, masks in particular, because we have a lot of mask sessions. We have a lot of great character keepers. This is my favorite one out of the bunch. It has extra sheets for everything, including these safety tools. The lines and veils, I've asked the players to just go ahead and enter any lines and veils they know up front. And some of them have done that. If anyone has any additional lines and veils that we haven't already noted that you'd like to add to that, feel free to do so. Feel free to do so during the game or between sessions. If you add something to the sheet between sessions, please just shoot me an email or a message in the Hangouts chat so that I can take that into account as I'm doing my GM prep for the next session. And that's all I have to say about safety tools. Does anybody else have anything they'd like to add or anything they'd like to say in regards to the safety tools we'll be using?
Just have a quick request about the X card. If it's unclear why something was X carded and the person feels able, not why as in their history, as in like it was a larger statement and we're not sure which part of the content was X carded, if the player is comfortable, it's helpful to just say which thing is being X carded to make sure that it doesn't get repeated. For me, at least, because I hate to hurt people. So obviously, if they just need to completely step back, we can think of everything possible in that scenario and just avoid all of it, because avoiding trauma is the most important thing. But if there was like one word in a sentence or one aspect of a scene, even just in the chat or privately to Chris or whatever else, I would really like to know, especially if I'm involved, so that I can avoid doing it again. If it's obvious, then obviously no need, right? But I've seen some ambiguous times where I wasn't sure what the problem was. And as someone who's had some trauma, I know what it's like. I don't want to do that to anyone. I love you all, even if I've just met you.
And that is a good point. The X card stuff, sometimes we may have to clarify exactly what's tripping someone up or making someone uncomfortable, so that we can know how far to pull back and which direction to go in after we've pulled back to avoid the problematic area. So that's good. I appreciate the clarification there, Pearl. I'd missed that part of my spiel. Let's see. Is anything else that anybody needs to clarify or talk about with regards to the safety tools, lines, veils, X cards, anything like that? Okay. All right. Some folks have already created their character portions on the character keeper. We've got people who have already picked the playbook, some people who have added character art, some people who have plugged in stats, all of that. And if everyone is ready to start those kind of introductions, we can go through that portion. If you have any questions or you need any clarification about anything with regards to the characters themselves, the character keepers, any tools that you have trouble dealing with as a part of the character keeper or any of the sheets, let me know. Does anybody have anything they'd like to talk about with regards to the character keeper before we go into character introductions?
One thing that I'm still trying to determine for sure, because my choice will affect Pearl's choice, is an actual first given name for my character. Pearl, can we take a quick second to figure that out?
Yeah. One of the things you mentioned when we were messaging back and forth was I forget exactly what the correspondence, like the zodiac sign and the like gem or the stone associated with. So you said, I think, Leo and Peridot. I thought that was awesome. I would be happy to do something like that.
Yeah, I'm going to post into the chat window because I was thinking along the same line. It's a really cool matchup. Which stones correspond with which zodiac signs? So I'll list off a couple of them that I like as names for a zodiac sign if there's a stone that you like.
Okay.
So I like Aquarius, I like Aries, I like Taurus, I like Leo, I like Scorpio, and Sagittarius, but it would be by Sage instead. So
By Sage?
yeah, Sage would be the name instead of going by Sagittarius.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So if one of the corresponding stones makes sense for you for a character name for you, we can go with that.
I mean, several of them are lovely, actually, for those. You said Aquarius, Aries,
Taurus, Leo,
and
Libra, Scorpio, and Sagittarius.
that's a lot of them. These are our like given names, not our hero names, or
Yeah, this would be given name.
okay, because some of them would work really well as like hero names, like Bloodstone or Onyx. You know, like as a name that like my parents would give me, maybe not as much. So I'm thinking probably like Sapphire, Garnet. Those are names that seem like, or not, sorry, Garnet. That seems like a weird name to give someone. Sapphire, or I thought I had one other one, Topaz maybe, that seemed like regular names, I guess, rather than superhero names.
Let's go with Taurus and Sapphire then, if that's good with you.
Sure, Taurus and Sapphire, got it. Just so everyone knows, a bunch of my character stuff is dependent on Vincent's. Like, not his could be dependent on mine. Like, mine specifically is dependent on his. So, you know.
Yeah, and that's a good segue into character introductions, I think, for everybody. I think we'll start off with if Vince and Pearl, if y'all are comfortable going ahead into your basic character introduction. Oh, okay. You guys can go last. Then I'll do it. We'll do everyone else because you guys are sort of a pair. We'll do kind of let everybody else roll through their stuff, and other than putting you two at the end, we'll go in character keeper order. If Alex is comfortable being number one again. Alex.
Yeah, that's fine. Do you want just like high level summary, or do you want to go into backstory and stuff too?
Let's go high level summary to start off with, and we'll get into backstory in a little bit when we get into doing how the team first came together and relationships and all that fun stuff.
All right. Yeah, I'm going to be playing as Jacqueline Jack Flash. She's the Star playbook. She's got electrodynamic control powers, which mostly manifest itself as like levitating things by creating a magnetic field by running current through them. And she is a vlogger and live streamer, using the power of social media and the internet to gain fame as a superhero.
That's great. And since we're skipping around the character keeper just a little bit, we'll go over to Ben. Ben, if you could give us your background.
Yeah, hey. So Nickel Washington, aka Black Block, or just Nick for short, is a punk. They're probably 17 years old. And they like doing the things that politically minded punks do. They go to every demo they can attend, spend their nights wheat pasting and tagging agitprop around the city. I guess that's a good top level summary. I don't want to bore y'all with the details until we get there.
Gotcha, that's great. And then we'll move to the next person in the character keeper, which will be Brock.
Yes, so I am playing the Nova. His name is Alejandro Eclipse. It's his hero name, Luna. He just goes by Alex for short because Alejandro is one of those names that you can't be getting called all the time, which I hope won't be too confusing now that I realize we have a real person named Alex in the game as well. Let's see. His powers are cosmic energies. He does what I like to call space magic. And as the Nova, his power set's really broad, so it's a little bit of whatever you can imagine cool space magic doing. But we'll see that in play, I guess.
That sounds great. Vince, you want to go next, and then Pearl, you can follow right up on, or you guys can sort of banter it back and forth, however's best to introduce your characters.
Okay, yeah, I'll go ahead and start, and we'll kind of go back and forth. And I posted in the chat that I'd already forgotten what we agreed on as far as name.
It was my muted. Wait a second. No, I'm not. Amazing. It was Taurus and whatever
Awesome.
the corresponding one was.
Yeah,
That I've now forgotten, but I can look at the link.
Yeah, Taurus is Sapphire.
Sapphire, that's right.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, so and I'm just gonna change the size because the name is bleeding off. Bear with me, I apologize. Yeah, so I'm playing Taurus Vector Galani. He's the Harbinger. He has he, him pronouns, but has fairly feminine features. So yeah, it's kind of gender ambiguous, even though he identifies he, him. He's identified by others as he, him. He's also very ethnically ambiguous. I'd say like the best hallmark of that is if you've played the first few Assassin's Creed games, how Desmond, as you meet all of his different ancestors, they all seem completely plausible. So like maybe he's Middle Eastern, or maybe he's Italian, or maybe he's Indigenous American. It could be any one of those. He's just kind of darker skin, but has fairly ambiguous facial features. One of the touchstones that I thought would be fun to play around with, since he's a time traveler, is he's done some research into what is a really popular look for right around the 4th of July in 2019 America, and has seen a lot of advertising from that time period for Stranger Things season 3. So his idea of being casually dressed is being dressed as Steve from with his Scoops Ahoy restaurant uniform, and he thinks that he's going to pass as normal, dressed like that on a daily basis. And I think I can pass it on to Pearl for anything that she wants to.
So I'm playing the joined playbook, which means a lot of my stuff is actually Vincent's stuff, or Taurus's stuff, depending on how you want to look at it. But I think I've got it all down. I was just adding things to the character keeper, so I'm a little bit flustered. I apologize. I suppose I should be Bale. I thought of making myself female with the name Sapphire, but should we be the same gender?
My actual thought was that since I am male with kind of a androgynous look, that would make just as much sense for you to be female with an androgynous look as well.
Love it. I'm going to go ahead and then say that Sapphire takes any pronouns and has an androgynous look, because that appeals to me anyway. Okay. So I don't even know what to say. Usually I introduce my characters in character, but this, I've never played a joined before, and it's like a really complicated thing, which I think is going to be super awesome as we play it, but introducing it is really hard. I will give you what my basic moves and things are, so at least you have that. And then maybe Vince and I can have a very quick chat on camera with everyone about what our joinedness means, because it's actually really important and probably is really what the core of my character is that connection. But I have some cool moves. So this one is specifically with Taurus. When time passes, the two of us gain influence over each other, and when either I or he pierce each other's masks, we get to mark a condition to take a 10 plus. Pretty neat. We also have fastball specials, so when we perform a coordinated fighting maneuver, we say who takes the lead and who assists, and the leader rolls the adult move, overwhelm a vulnerable foe, while the assistant marks a condition. So every once in a while, we could be super powerful, although one of us will then have to suffer some consequences. I'm happy to do that. I love having bad things happen in games. It's hilarious. I also, as far as I can tell from the joined rules, get to take one of his moves that he has, and then one other one from his playbook that he didn't take. So the ones that I took are a stick to the mission, which is when you defend someone or something critically important to the future and tell everybody why. You can mark a condition to shift one label and shift up savior before the roll. If you do, you cannot choose the option clear a condition for the defend move. And the other one that I picked is you haven't learned you can do that yet. So when I tell a teammate, and that is any of you, I believe, not just Taurus, a new, never before performed trick that they've never considered, I can spend a team from the pool to allow them to unleash their powers, directly engage a threat, or defend someone using my superior label as if it were yours. Any costs or complications of that move will affect me as well. I won't go on.
That's sick. That's
Yeah.
great.
Right? I was like, I'm pretty excited about it. And I'm going to give myself a pretty high savior. Is it savior or superior? Whatever stat uses that, I get to boost one of mine, which I haven't written them in yet, and I'm boosting that so that you all can just explode with awesomeness if I use that skill.
Yeah, it's superior.
Thank you. I won't bother with the moment of truth. We're going to do relationships together, etc.
And I can also cover my moves along that same topic. So I also have stick to the mission. My other power is Tomorrow's Golden Promise, which is when you comfort or support someone with tales of what you think their future will be. I can roll Savior instead of Mundane. And I mark a condition unless I am confident that the stories are true.
Cool stuff.
There's going to be a lot of wibbly wobbly timey wimey business going on.
Yeah, there is.
Be ready, folks.
The only other thing that I have added that isn't something we would go over in relationships or anything like that is that I think my nickname among a lot of friends is Sappho, which drives my parents insane. My character is bisexual, not technically. What with the androgynous thing, it doesn't really make sense to be a lesbian straight up because we're trying to keep gender a little bit. But definitely bi or pan or something like that. But from Sapphire came Sappho, and I think it's great, and my parents are not thrilled. I don't think they're homophobic. I just think that wasn't their intention with the name Sapphire. So, and I will have more of a personality once we get everything else established, I think. I was waiting to play off of Vincent a little bit more before really writing out what I usually have is a sort of over-the-top ridiculous personality. So that will come, I am sure. Sorry that took me a minute to go through all of it. The Joined is a complicated playbook. But thank you.
No problem. Okay. I think we're ready to go into the backstory portion. And along with your backstory questions, if you'd like to, you can also describe your character's like superhero costume. You don't have to go into in-depth. You can just say it's colorful, it's flashy, or something like that if you want to. Or you can describe it however you'd like to do that. And we'll go back around and start again with Alex if you're ready.
Okay, yeah. So Jax, her costume is the same as her just day-to-day clothes. She doesn't like have a specific superhero costume, which is she's got this sick red leather jacket, and generally some variation of like t-shirt and then black jeans under that. oftentimes like kind of expensive designer-ish clothes that she's gotten from like sponsors. And backstory wise, first question is, when did you first appear on screen? And I think a video of her as somebody younger using her powers and like just wiping out hilariously went viral on like a hilarious YouTube fails compilation. And that taste of virality led her to actually purposely make videos of like her using her powers, and that led her down the path she is now. She was, as far as she can tell, she was born with her powers, and that's what she tells people. She didn't inherit them from anybody. I don't think her parents have powers, as far as she's aware. Who outside of the team supports your burgeoning star in every way possible? I think that would be her mother, who's maybe a bit too like pushy, has maybe been a little bit too pushy when it comes to like pushing her daughter's fame. But she supports a lot with like just managing PR stuff. But I didn't take that as it's Patsy. Very much was thinking of that. And then who outside of the team loathes what you represent? I think taking a little inspiration from Mob Psycho 100 here. He's got a younger brother who, as far as you know, never had any powers, and just sort of is very resentful of her, the way she like seeks attention and has become famous and like well loved. Because like who knows who her brother is? Nobody. And then why do you care about the team is the final one, the only one I am sort of figuring out as I go along now. And I think it's like, I think she likes to act like everybody's just stepping stones, and that she doesn't really care because she's too cool to care. But fundamentally, like, she wants to be able to do good, and she wants to hang around people who like understand her. And that's why it matters.
Awesome.
Okay, that's our star. Next up, Vince. I still think it's a good idea if you and Pearl sort of go back to back. So I'll take a step over you in the playbook order, and we'll move on to our next character, our Delinquent. You're ready. Or did I miss? Yeah, Ben?
Oh, there we go. Sorry, muted. Right, so I just realized that I completely forgot to go over the superhero part of my superhero in the opening. So powers-wise, Black Block has illusion and teleportation. And I think that they really just started to realize that they have powers and really don't have any idea what they can do with them. All I have a clear idea for them is that they can blend into a crowd. They don't wear a costume, but when they pull their bandana up over their face, they become indistinguishable. So like their costume, like their normal outfit is covered in patches for bands and political causes and burning cop cars and the like. And when they pull up their bandana, all of that disappears. All logos, all identifying features, and they can blend into any crowd anytime. I feel like the teleportation is probably some version of that, like skipping around within large groups of people, or maybe it's like a stepping in and out of shadows only thing. I don't know. I'm deciding to find out as we play. Far as their backstory, Black Block assumes that they inherited their powers from their father. So I'm going to skip right ahead to the next to 2 questions down. Who outside the team thinks better of you than you do? And this is Nickel's father, Randy Washington, who was a powered revolutionary active 30, 40 years ago, who has been for many years and is still a political prisoner under Aegis's care. And I guess the idea is that Nick wants to follow in their father's shoes, not because Randy's their dad, but because Randy was right. So what Nick does for fun is go out to every single rally they can, usually trying to escalate situations and get into scraps. And when they don't have any protests to go to, they like to wheat paste, agitprop, and tag their Circle A's and other various political symbols all over the city. Why does Nick try to be a hero? Because no one is free so long as anyone is in chains. And why do they care about the team? Dude, I don't. My mom made me be here. Sorry, that is going specifically off the summer camp thing, since I wasn't sure quite how much backstory we'd have, and to contextualize it a little bit. Basically, Nick's mom has tried to keep them as best they can out of trouble, and didn't realize that they were powered, but as soon as Nick started showing powers, has started trying to make sure that those are contained and that they are given strong, ideologically acceptable role models to look up to.
I gotcha. Just one thing for clarification, and I can't remember if I'd stated this earlier or not. Since we're playing in the Gauntlet Comics universe, the Gauntlet Comics universe version of Aegis, it's pretty much the same thing, is Eon. It's Eon, but it's got an A on the front of it because we got to spell it weird because it's a comic book.
Okay.
So it's AEON, all caps. It stands for something, but only Jim, I think, knows for sure what the acronym really stands for. I think he's worked on that more than anybody else.
I'm completely unfamiliar with established lore, so if I'm stepping on anything, let me know.
Oh no, that's it. I think that was the only thing that tripped it up, and that was just for the purposes of the Gauntlet Comics thing itself. That's the name of the Shield / Aegis / Checkmate, whatever you want to call it. That's who they are.
Is it similar, akin to in Shield? It sounds like you guys just really wanted it to spell out Shield.
That's the impression I got. But it's a little bit shorter than Shield and not quite as many letters. So there's all sorts of things you can do with that. It's just a lot easier than Shield. Like Shield was really hard. They had to work on that for years. So, okay. So I appreciate that. And we will move to our next character in line, which is, I believe, is our Nova.
Yes, although also Ben did bring up a good point. Maybe we'll get to this when we do the team questions, but do we know each other from school? Are we all meeting at this camp? Like, what do we think?
My impression of the general setup for Masks, and I didn't alter any of this, is that you guys have encountered each other at least once before and know each other well enough to work together. Okay. So you've had when your team came together isn't specifically at the summer camp. You guys have met before. How far in depth your relationships go, like whether you know each other's secret identities or anything like that, or if you even have those, that's all going to be up to you as part of the team building part. But I'm presuming that you guys have met each other and know each other well enough not to actively not to actively work against each other at the very beginning. I presume you might get into it later on because that's what super teens do. But at the beginning, you guys have met each other, have worked together at least once for that one big fight that every Masks game likes to start out with as far as the backstory for the characters, and we would move forward from there. If you guys want to
Okay.
do something different, I'm cool with that too. We'll just take us a little bit more legwork to kind of work out where you guys are as far as story and everything goes.
All right, sounds good to me. Let's see. So when did Eclipse first use his powers? I think he was not born with them. I think in good teen hero sort of metaphor for puberty, like something happened when he was 12 or 13, and it changed his life. He got these scary, dangerous powers. Who was the first person you accidentally hurt with your powers? I think I'm going to do a thing where I answered two. The next one is who outside of the team helps you control your powers. I think there's a classic Peter Parker, Mary Jane, like a childhood friend, and there's a whole ongoing like will they, won't they kind of thing in all the comics with Eclipse. And I think she was there when he was like first accidentally struck with these powers, and they were going all out of control and blowing everything up. But they continue to be friends, and she's his sort of touchstone with the normal world that keeps them grounded. Why do you continue to use your powers? I think it's. I think he kind of likes it. I think it's kind of a rush. The whole game, the whole like being a super and going out and fighting things. He's got these powers and he wants to use them. And he wants a good reason to use them. And so like fighting evil and stopping crime and stuff is a good reason to kind of like indulge in this thing that he has now. And why do you care about the team? I think again, like it's sort of he wants to like find a place for being this weird, scary person who doesn't fit into the normal world, and so like being around a bunch of other kids who like are also weird and distinct from the world is like comforting for him. It's sort of like the natural place to be, to fit in. As far as his costume, I think it's really over the top. I think fantastical is the option in the looks. I think he has a thing that is also maybe from Thor 2, or I think it's from Thor 2, where like when he does his burn and he turns on his magic powers, he just kind of like swoosh, and like magic runs over him, and he goes from whatever he's wearing to like into his costume. And I think it's very fantasy. Like it's got like a cape that's like always flowing unnaturally in his magical energies. He's probably got like a stylized domino mask kind of thing, like the black around the eyes, and it's got little, prongs. I think it's a sort of slightly dark emo costume because he's got these dark space energies. Yes, that's cool. Actually, you can see. I think that's actually what his powers look like. Is these kind of like purple nebula-looking things where you can see the universe vaguely inside of his powers, and so he's very over the top in that way. And yeah.
Okay. All right, and that takes us to our Harbinger and our Joined.
All right, cool. And I'll ask Pearl to give kind of thumbs up or like go like that if I seem to be off base in how I'm describing some of these backstory elements. So first question is, how did you travel from the future to the present day? I think that in our future, which is about 20 years from our present day, time travel has just recently been discovered. And we're in a moderately post-apocalyptic kind of situation, which will be circling back around to what generated that apocalypse. But a lot of heroes and villains have been trying to travel back in time to bend the path of time in one direction or another. And my father, I'm going to say separated from my mother, has sent me back in time to a pivotal moment in his life, armed only with a photograph from like a class picture heading into this summer Aeon program that he's in, I'm in, and Sappho are in, among a bunch of other people. So like we know that everybody in this photograph is important in some kind of way, but this is, it's been preordained that we'd be back there. What keeps you from returning to the future? I'll keep it pretty simple. We've run out of PIM particles. So unless we can find somebody who has already developed the magic juice for traveling through time, we're stuck here. Why are your memories and knowledge of the future scrambled? And I think that time just kind of moves in a very fractal kind of direction. So there's, any event that happens is going to lead to the next event that happens from that. So since all this stuff is constantly in motion and just kind of general butterfly effect, just arriving back in this time period already starts to scramble things. In addition to that, in this post-apocalyptic future that I come from, identities are something that people keep really, really private. Like every hero is in masks and only are using hero names, which have changed a lot over the past 20 years. So nobody is publicly using the same identity that they were using 20 years earlier. I haven't seen many people's faces, like really just my father's. So he's the only person I've been able to pick out from a crowd going back. That brings up something that Pearl and I have been talking through, and I want to just kind of toss it out to the group as well. We have kind of two different ideas of where we could be going with this father figure. Either it could be one of the teachers running the program, or if one of you wants to be intimately connected to our backstory, we would love it if another player wants to be this father. So I'm leaving that open to the rest of the group. Don't everybody speak at once. But seeing that no one is speaking, it sounds like the preference might be to make it a teacher, but that's cool.
Just a quick question. What is your dad's name? Because I want to plug that a little bit into the NPCs tab.
Yeah.
Can his name be Biff? Because that's hilarious.
Yes.
Awesome.
Now, does he have your same last name, or was that changed? Did you?
That's changed. That's
So what is his last name?
Yeah, let's have it. I want just the most generic possible of last names.
That means Smith or Johnson.
Let's go with Roberts, Biff Roberts.
Okay.
And so that developed into Galani in that whole era of everybody trying to hide their former identities. So my next question is, what is the most important part of your future that you want to avert? And this kind of gets to the heart of why I've gone back in time in the first place. Like, what's really important to me about this is I want to make sure that my father and my mother have a healthy relationship coming out of this summer. And I think that if we can do that, I think that a heart of what led to this apocalyptic situation was their breakup. So if I can make sure that he meets my mother and they actually like get together, and that there's a strong foundation to that, then I have accomplished my mission in traveling back. And the reason that I must join this team specifically to achieve my mission's goals is this is where it all happened anyway. So I'm here, in part by convenience, but I know that every member of this team and a lot of other people in the class that are NPCs as well are critical figures in the future that is to come.
What is your mom's name?
Let's go with Catherine. And
Catherine with a C or with a K?
With a K. Pearl, do you want to provide a last name? Oh, actually, sorry. I'm recalling now. To back up, delete Catherine. I don't know. I don't know what her name is. So I am just trying to be Biff's wingman as best I can and trying to find who he actually has common interests with and hoping I don't screw it up. This gets to my hazy memories.
Okay. All right. Pearl, is there anything that you would like to add to that, or kind of flesh any of those points out as you introduce your character?
So I think this is one of those things where we were trying to work out so many things in advance that I want to make sure I have my story straight. So both of us, in both of our cases, our mothers were out of the picture when we were babies. We never knew them, had no attachment to them, which works well with my lines and veils. So we sort of have similar objectives, or the same objective, sort of, which is to avert things that happen in the future, but we are from these alternate timelines. And I mean, like most of what was said kind of applies to both of us. But so yeah, I don't know what I should probably pick a superhero name. It'd be kind of funny if my superhero name was Sappho, but that's not really a superhero name, is it?
I think you do have some specific backstory questions as the joined.
Oh,
as
that's
well.
right. I do, and I wrote them down. So
And
let's see.
I just recalled a spot that I left blank on that, which was describing the costume, which it's, if I'm picking off of high tech, impossible, sleek, and dramatic, it's like all but the last one of those. It's kind of similar to the Black Panther costume in that he has a necklace that has nanotechnology in it that, you know, he touches it and the whole suit comes onto him, and it's primarily a shock absorption system, so that when falling from very, very high heights, as often happens when portals are screwed up, he's able to disperse any pressure from a hard impact so that it doesn't shatter his bones.
My character is supposed to have an identical costume, so I also have a thing I can go like that with and get an impact resisting thing. I did put for the look of my non-costume thing, I did a play on the mismatch of casual clothing. So where Taurus accidentally looked to the 80s and is not quite pulling off the modern look, I realized I was going to be in this program and therefore watched superhero things. And so I dress like a weird superhero when I'm like casually running around. I put a little picture in the Keeper in like a cat suit and heels and whatever else, because I am assuming that that's just what people look like, because when I looked up the movies from this time period that would have had Aeon-like features, that's what I saw. So I imagine that Sapphire will adjust eventually and maybe learn to wear just like pants. But at the moment, she doesn't have any non-like superhero costume clothing that then becomes a different superhero costume, like when she taps her wrist, apparently. Yeah, I think so. My weird is so hard to keep track. I had it all out of my mind. But my future was better, but still needed changing, presumably, which is why I'm back. But I am like the less dystopian raised one of the two of us. And I also can't get back to the future, presumably. Oh, God. I actually said that out loud. Without the PIM particles or whatever. but I too would like to figure out who my mother is, because it's important to the future. We need to put a bunch of like people from the future down, right? Or
Not
do we
yet.
not put them down yet? Okay, we don't put them yet.
Yeah. That comes up in play. We start out with not knowing who anybody is, and then when we identify somebody as being important to the future, we have some roles that happen.
And I'm going to assume that because it's in the Harbinger playbook, that my character has the same thing, which is that our memories are a bit scrambled when we went back in time. So we like sort of know what we're avoiding, and we have some ideas, but it's like a little bit messed up, like as to who the major players are and why. So we might have to be doing some rolls and piecing some things together to figure out exactly what we're doing and who we're supposed to talk to. Backstory: how did my other half become connected? So we both flew back in time to try to find our moms and avert future things. And did we decide, Vincent, like how we actually came across each other, or
I don't think that we
like,
did, but
about it?
I think maybe to toss out an idea, if we both know that Biff Roberts
Oh,
is
maybe
our
we showed up at the same moment on his lawn, and we're like, "Hey,
Oh, I was even going to say that we both on the same day intentionally got served detention on a day that he was managing the detention hall,
I'll take it."
so that we can start to pry into his private life. And we both
Absolutely.
got a little suspicious of how interested the other one was in Biff Roberts.
That sounds great. And I imagine my cost or my clothing doesn't meet the dress code, so easy to get detention. But yeah, so I guess we met in detention when we were both covertly investigating Biff, and then ended up realizing not just that we had a bit in common, that we actually had this. We were like two versions of the same person from divergent timelines. So we're not even like twins or whatever. We're like the same androgynous guy, gal,
Yeah.
person.
I think we likely even had initially after that, like a confrontation of accusing the other one of being some kind of time traveling Terminator.
Yeah, like I'm the actual, like my future's the real one. Who are you? Although if your future was pretty bad and mine was pretty okay, but like possibly imperiled, I'm gonna probably stick to mine is the good future. So, like,
It
don't
was
get in
the
the way.
best of timelines. It was the worst of timelines.
Yep. Who or what did I have to give up because of my connection? Maybe I had to give up sort of like part of my sense of unique individuality, having discovered that there's another me who has all these cool things about them, like lots of stuff in common with me, but then this other thing, and like wondering how I would have turned out in, like, say, a third timeline, right? Like how much of me is me and how much of me is upbringing and whatever else. And then apart from our powers, what keeps us together? We're the same person. So while we might have, squabbles now and again, I think we actually sort of have a very deep bond emotionally, like
We
twins.
stayed together for our dad.
Yeah. But what I'm thinking is it's more than that. Like, because we are essentially the same, we're going to have a lot of just, like, you would get along well with yourself, even a dystopian version of yourself. Someone outside the team thinks I'd be better off on my own. Who are they, and why do they think that? I don't know, team. What do you think? This isn't one of the, like...
It's going to be somebody outside of the team. That's going to be another NPC.
Oh, outside the team. Sorry, I read that wrong. Oh, man. What if it were Biff? That would be really upsetting.
Oh,
But, like,
what if... And I think it'd be good for us to have a new NPC, but it could also be interesting if it was Patsy Flash. It's
that
like,
would be great.
yeah, you have the makings of a star.
That would be hilarious, actually.
Mom, stop it!
Let's do it. So Patsy Flash. I'm just gonna put that in here before I forget. Patsy Flash. And then does someone put it in inside the team? It's definitely Nick. You don't need a man. That's awesome. And I'm also just gonna put that in my notes because even if it's not technically a question, I think it's hilarious. So I hope that that is okay. Is it okay?
Sure.
Um,
I thumbs up, but y'all can't see me.
that is okay. I'm just adding that as well. Sorry, I'm trying to do this really fast. And then I think that, oh, and why do I care about the team? I think why I care about the team, there are like probably a couple of reasons. One is that I know we're going to need to possibly fight for the future not to suck. And so being on a team of superheroes is very handy for fighting off impending doom. But also I think that this version of us, that Sapphire, actually is like really sort of team-minded, and like because her future turned out pretty well, she's like pretty well adjusted and friendly and likes to be part of a team and is just kind of maybe dorkily excited to be around other people with cool powers and like just happy to be here and wants to be a contributing member, both to like the thing that she and Taurus are trying to bring about, and also to whatever needs to happen in the present to like bring about justice and goodness. And the more flashy costume things and such, the better. Yay, nay? Comments?
That sounds good to me. Let's see. Does anybody else have any anything they need to add on this part, or are we ready to move on to our bit of finding out how you guys first came together as a team?
Good to move on.
Okay. All right. We will start with how we need things to go together. All right. We're going to go in sort of an unusual order here because some of the questions make more sense if they come up at the beginning of the conversation, and others make a lot more sense toward the end. So we're going to move through them in this sort of suggested order I'd found. I'll switch these up a little bit because based on what you guys have said, some of this might make a little more sense early on. Okay. First, we're going to go with the Nova's How You Came Together question. The Nova's How You Came Together question is, we destroyed our surroundings in the fight. Where was it? What did we destroy? And I'll turn it over to our Nova.
Let's see. I don't have anything super specific in mind. I think like following some tropes, it should be a real teenage kind of location. Like this was at our school that like a villain attacked, or we were at the mall or something like that.
This is your question. You get to pick. What would you? What do you want to have just blasted all to heck by your super battle?
I kind of like the idea that it was our school, and that the part of the summer program was like maybe supposed to be held at this school, and now it's at a new location. Like they're having to improv this year because like the school is just gone. Because we really just messed it up recently, and that messed up all their plans for where this summer camp was supposed to be.
Okay. All right. So you basically knocked around through your school. You destroyed the portion of the school that had been set aside for the original Prime Summer program, so they've had to move it. Okay. The next question I'd go into here, because I'm going to switch these around because it seems to make a little more sense. For our Harbinger, we averted a disaster from the future's history books. What was that disaster, and what effect do we hope it had on the timeline?
Okay. Yeah. So I think that the section of the school that got destroyed in this was a section of the school that within a year was actually going to collapse on its own, but during an assembly. And so there's uh, a number of students in my history books in the future. It's described as this tragic event that happened at the school that affected some like the building codes for if you're going to have a school that houses superheroes, here are some of the things you need to do to keep it up to code, because these potential burgeoning heroes ended up losing their lives when this section of the building collapsed. And so two things have happened. First of all, they haven't lost their lives, so they're going to be still having an effect on whatever future I might go back to. And secondly, a lot of newer buildings aren't up to code, or up to what the code would be, since the code never changed.
Very good. I'm going to move things around a little bit on the list here, and I'm going to go to, and I know you like to go last, Pearl, but the next question kind of makes sense for you to fill in now that he's talked about that. Your question as the joined is: the connection between our two halves was threatened by the crisis. How and by what?
Man. So I asked this when I was chatting with Vincent. Vincent, what did we say?
Oh, I think we talked about the possibility, like a villain who is trying to collapse the timelines to make one thing happen instead of a multiverse of things happen.
Yes. How does that how does that threaten our connection? That's the thing I keep like nothing would threaten our connection. We're great.
Well, I think that had that happened, it would have erased one or both.
That makes sense. Okay. So that's the answer that I gave, definitely. I'm the one who said it.
Hey, that works. Okay. Next, we go to our delinquent. We totally broke some major rules to win the fight. What rules did we break, and whose rules were they?
So before I answer this, we're talking about a school for supers.
Actually, it's most of the schools in New Gauntlet City, which is our default setting for Gauntlet Comics, are kind of the same way that Halcyon City is set up. You have most of the schools are combinations, like they have regular people and supers in the same school. They attempt to kind of make everybody aware that everybody has to live together, and so some people, just like for everybody else and every other minority group, some folks have to learn to be a little more careful, and some folks have to learn to accept people that are different from them. You got to learn to accept the lizard guy. You got to learn to accept the wolf man. You got to learn to accept the alien from the 17th dimension. All of that's part of the integration of the school system in this city. And so pretty much everybody and anybody could be in your school. Aliens, regular earthlings, people from alternate timelines, people from other dimensions, people from Asgard, people from wherever. All of those folks could be in your school.
Right on. I mean, the obvious one is that we used powers unsupervised, but that's like almost too obvious. So I think what I want to go with, and anyone can feel free to try and talk me out of this if they want to, is that one of the rules that especially as like junior unsponsored, like unfledged supers, is that we have a duty to defend non-powered folks and to prioritize their evacuation from the scene of a superpowered situation. And I imagine that Nick, at least, instead rallied a bunch of their friends to help out, throwing desks, chairs, milk cartons to create a distraction or to help herd the threat towards the other supers who are choosing to engage. That
Oh, that would totally get you guys in so much trouble. So yes, that would be great.
sweet. Whose rules were they? I feel like it's probably like a school district-wide policy. Maybe not legislated, but like it's a big one.
Well, you say it's like maybe the safety rules of the school, perhaps. Like, you know, normal people are supposed to get out of the way when there's a super battle. Like, that's the program. Super battle. If you ain't a super, get the heck out of the way. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
You think that would work?
Yeah.
Okay.
I like the idea. I like the idea that we're in some sense obligated as junior supers to like manage evacuation rather than engage directly.
I can definitely see that. That sounds good to me. Anything else you want to add?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay, and it looks like the last question to be asked is of our star. We as a team attracted the attention of a major media outlet within the city thanks to our efforts. Who are they? Why do they support us?
Might Eon have like a subsidiary organization that's like media focused and focused on like regulating and influencing public perception of powered people, that sort of thing? Okay, yeah, I think they're called Epic, but like the period of time Epic, EPOCH, and I think it's also like an acronym that doesn't actually mean anything. I think, yeah, I think like it sort of like I think this incident and like how we fought it off like gave them leverage to push gave them leverage like to use their media influence to like push certain new regulations or possibly restrict or possibly relax some existing regulations. I don't know necessarily what specifically those would be, but I think it's something to that effect.
Okay, do you think, just for the purposes of your question, because this is your part of it, do you think Eon at this point, based on the situation, was trying to manage things to spin things into a better place for you, and a better, and like in order to press for things that are good for supers in general, or were they kind of, even though they're supporting your action at least overtly, were they trying to spin it in a way that gets them more political wherewithal to do the things they want to do?
I think it's the second one. Like, I think they're at best ambivalent about Jack sort of, you know, making blazing her own media trail. I imagine at worst, like, you know, they don't love not really having control of, you know, this particular outlet of public perception. So yeah, I think it really I think they, you know, they might have even like somewhat downplayed Jack's particular contribution in their sort of their retold version of events. Yeah, because their focus is on increasing their own political clout.
Okay, I can definitely see that. Let's see. All right, we're coming up on our first sort of midpoint mark. When we're through most of our standard character stuff, is there anything anyone would like to add about your characters? Maybe clarify any information you've given us before about your backstory or your moment when your team came together or anything like that?
A quick thing. We talked about our portals, which I'm super excited about. But on the character sheets, portals actually also go with teleportation. It's a set of abilities. Do we get to do both?
Yes. You just get to figure out. You get to describe how they work, and occasionally, if you roll badly, I get to describe how they work.
Yes. Well, and it probably won't be occasional in my case. I'm terrible with the rolls. But I just realized we had only talked about one half of what our supposed abilities were, I think. So wanted to just quickly bring that up. Listen, you ready to teleport?
I'd say that I'm happy if you are ready to teleport. I think that this could be an aspect of our divergent timeline. This is a part of my power that it's latent. I don't understand it, but you do.
I like that. So yes, I think I can teleport. Maybe not like humongous distances, but here and there. I think that could be fun with the portals. Like put a portal, send an object, be over there to receive it on the other side, that kind of thing. And then also something we discussed a little in chat was the idea that there's a little bit of sort of a psychic bond between Sapphire and Taurus. Not like actually telepathy. There's like a move we would have to roll for that. But just like maybe being able to sense almost like twins kind of, where like, we can read each other's face as well. Yeah, like so maybe sense if the other one's in danger slightly, that kind of thing.
And there's a move specific aspect if we want to get deeper than that, where we can force it, take a 10 plus on a pierce each other's mask move, but it requires gosh, now I have to find the joined book because I only had my own book up.
I have it. It's or it did a second ago. Come back. I was just looking at you. Did we take that move?
I think it's an automatic one.
Oh, it's a distinction.
Yeah.
So we get distinctions when. So we have bonds. Right now, our bond is the fastball special, the coordinated fighting maneuver one. When either of us locks a label, we cross off one of our bonds and choose a distinction. And that's when we would gain that ability, but we don't have it to start.
Yeah, and but no, what we have is we have two of a kind. It's when time passes, you and your other half gain influence over each other. When you or your other half pierces the other's mask, we can mark a condition to take a 10 plus. So that's kind of our higher level telepathic aspect.
Where is that? I should write that down somewhere.
Yeah. It's the second half of two of a kind.
Oh yeah. Hey, there it is. All right. So yes. So what I'm talking about is more of just a
general day-to-day
each other.
Want to take conditions.
So yeah, is everyone okay with us having? It's not written into the playbooks, but it makes sense to me that we would have at least like a vague connection of that sort. How do people feel?
Well, as the GM, I'm cool with you guys wanting to have that sort of twin magic sort of thing going.
Awesome.
Anybody else have any issues or any details they'd like to throw in there? No? Okay. All right. We'll move to our relationship questions for everybody, and after that, we'll take our break, and we'll jump in and see what horrible thing I can do to you before the end of the section. So we'll still in playbook order this time. We'll move back into that for the purposes of these questions. These are your character's relationship questions. We will begin with our star, Jack Flash. What are your relationship questions? You want to pick one and ask anybody if they want to jump in on it, or if you have any ideas, make some suggestions.
Okay. Yeah. So the first one is blank might wind up being more of a star than me someday, and I was wondering if, based on the fact that her mom is apparently like telling them they should go off on their own, that might not be Sapphire.
Might not be Sapphire.
Just like that. Could that be Sapphires? Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
All right.
I'm gonna take that one.
And the other one is Blank would be a great sidekick. I try to keep him around. And I'm open to whoever wants to take that. Might be funny if it was the other of the twins, though.
I'm happy with that.
All right.
Oh my gosh, that segues absolutely into mine really well.
And since that makes, I think, Vince, you're next on the playbook order, right?
Yep.
Okay, go for it. What are your relationship questions?
I'll take mine in reverse order because it's just too perfect. So you've always idolized Blank, but it's too awkward to admit to them now that you've met them in real life. Keep it cool, keep it cool. And I think I've absolutely always idolized Jacqueline. I think to build off of that, because Jacqueline is such like a forward personality, she's one of the few people that didn't go behind the mask when all of the terrible shit went down. So, as time continued to go on, she was just a very like prevalent voice in what makes a superhero. And yeah, there's gonna be some disillusionment, I think, as I get to know her better. But starting out, I'm just like, Jacqueline is the platonic ideal of super person. And then my other is Blank turns away from the hero's path according to your history books. You have to prevent that from happening. And at first I thought that could be Black Block, but I think given the urgency of it, I think it's more interesting if it's Eclipse, where even if turning away from the hero's path means as little as becoming distant from heroism. I'm kind of thinking of like Dr. Manhattan, who just is like, you know what, humanity isn't worth it, peace out, and heads off to just kind of see all of the possible futures without having to be involved in them. I think that I want to make sure that you stay a hero.
I'm super cool with that. I definitely was eyeing your questions, thinking I would like to snag that one. I hadn't thought of like a Dr. Manhattan thing, although that's cool. But like, I would love to be a young Magneto, or this is the teen story of a character who's like famous for becoming this anti-hero in their adult comic runs. So I'm super down with that.
Aw, I wanted that one.
Well, speaking of that one, is Black Block ready to answer those questions?
A fire with my antics. Because Sapphire is basically the coolest other person in the room, like the only other like real weirdo. I think I assume that she's right? Yeah, or any that she's a like a real rebel like me, even though in actual fact it seems like maybe she's just kind of clueless. At least
I'm not clueless. Thank you very much.
forms in our timeline. Excuse me. Sorry. And I think that I pulled an awesome, if illegal, stunt with Jack when I took her out tagging one night and helped show her how to throw her own tag up. And I'm still pissed about it because she blasted that video all over Instagram. And like, first of all, that's terrible security culture. Like, it's a good thing that like no one can identify me, or like my face would have been all over that shit. And also she totally left me out of it. Like, edited me out of her glory shots.
See,
I'm
Jack,
into
you cool
it.
with that? Okay. All right. On to Eclipse.
Let's see. So you hang out all the time with Blank to blow off steam. Since two of our crew are recently arrived from the future, I think it's got to be Jack or we have two Jacks, don't we? Oh, Jack or Nick. Sorry. I mean, Nick's always getting up to antics. That seems like the sort of. I don't think Alex is like. He's clearly not on the level with the amount of punk stuff that Nick is getting up to, but like he's like a tag along.
I want to make a case for it being Taurus.
Okay.
Which is because it's so important to me that I had to prevent you from going anti-hero or going absent. I'm always there, like anytime that stuff is getting too heavy for you, to just kind of like help you ride the wave of it. And like it's come across as I'm trying to be a really great friend, but really I'm trying to like make sure that things don't go too far.
Okay, I like that. What do we do to blow off steam? Or is it just sort of normal, like friends? You know, we just nothing particular.
No, given that I have some of these backup portals to get to remote spots, that's a big part of what we do. Is go off to like the top of a mountain, just to allow you to like get whatever is on you off of you. Go out to thousands of miles out in the ocean. That kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's cool. And then you once hurt Blank when you lost control of your powers. I think that might be Jack, because that gets messy with like it probably was caught on tape or something, and now this is like it's like semi-public that this is like a kid that Jack's fan base doesn't like because like clearly he sucks and he's like irresponsible with his powers and he hurt their friend or their idol. I think that's the most interesting. If you're cool with that.
Yeah. Sorry, I was
Sorry?
zoning out a bit. Could you run that by me again real quick? I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, no. It's you once hurt Blank when you lost control of your powers, and I was saying that'd be interesting if that was like caught on camera or ended up on social media because of Jack's following.
Sure.
All right.
Okay. Pearl, you ready with Sapphire?
There we go. All right. So where I put them on the sheet. Where are they now?
Line
Here they
42.
So when I have problems with my other half, I talk to. So who would I talk to? I'm thinking. Probably not Jack, since there maybe is a little bit of weirdness there with the mom and whatnot. And obviously not Taurus. So it would be either Nicola or Alejandro or Black Block or Eclipse. I'm going to say, do either of you have a particular desire to be that?
Yeah, I'd like to make the case for Black Block. They're a little short on relationships. And I think it would be really cool if like there's like this actual just straightforward genuine friendship within the team.
I think that's great. So Black Block it is. And then the other one is I'm jealous of the relationship between my other half and someone, and I keep trying to interject myself. Sorry. My thought is that actually might be Jack, because maybe I feel snubbed by Jack, and Jack sort of seeks out Taurus specifically as the version of me that isn't threatening to their image. And so I like pick up on that discrepancy and am bothered by it. And I'm like, hey, I'm coming along, guys, right? That kind of thing.
Yeah, I really like that.
Okay.
I love what this is establishing is Jack feeling simultaneously like threatened and that the exact same person is a complete pushover, just like two different sides of the same coin. It has to like put together that we're the same person.
Yep. I like the idea
Yeah.
that the more things go on, the more similar we become as we like learn from each other and talk about things. And it starts to get almost weird how similar we become, because we are really the same person, or at least close to it. So that should be interesting to see if that plays out. I think those are my only two.
Yep, that's it. Now we do the influence questions for each playbook. If you want to take a look at your particular playbooks, we'll move back over to our star for their influence questions. And I think I think yours is pretty simple, Jack Flash.
Yeah, it's choose how you see the team as a means to an end or as something worthwhile on its own. If you see the team as a means to an end, give no one influence. If you see the team as something worthwhile, give 3 teammates influence. And like, I think Jack definitely likes to act like she does not really care, and that just a means to an end. But it's definitely that she does think of the team as something worthwhile. So I'm going to give influence to Taurus, Sapphire, and Alex.
All right, very good. Next, I think, is our Harbinger.
Yep, and mine's pretty straightforward. It says every member of your team has the power to change the future, your future. Give everyone influence over you. So, yeah, everybody gets it.
And next, we come to our Delinquent, Black Block.
You're muted, Ben.
Sorry, thank you. You care way more than you thought. It's influence over you. And I think that is definitely Sapphire, Jack, and I think Eclipse too. Though I'm not quite sure why yet.
Let's see, Ben, we're getting a lot of or at least I'm hearing a lot of feedback from when you're on. It sounds like maybe wind noise or something like that. I'm not sure what it is.
I know what it is. It's intolerably hot here, and I pointed my fan at me.
Oh, okay.
Is that better?
Yeah, that's fine. I just every once in a while your voice would be obscured by it. Yeah, it sounded like wind noise, so a fan's probably what's going on. Let's see. Then we move to our Nova.
Yes. So I choose your demeanor, happy facade, or locked down. Absolutely locked down. It's a super grim, emo kind of angsty kid. So I give influence to just one teammate. I mean, from our relationship questions, I think the obvious person is Taurus. They're kind of my one, like, open friend. Yep.
That's awesome. I love the fact that the one that has the flashiest superhero-esque costume is the one that's all angsty and emo. That's I love that.
It's dark though. It's like purple and black.
Okay. Now we go to our join, Sapphire.
All right. Where's the bottom? Wait, am I looking at this right? Hold on a second. Let me go back to my actual playbook because I feel like I didn't copy it down quite right. Possibly. Where is it? Every member of my team has the power. Oh, wait, no. That's the Harbinger. Sorry. I have them both open because they're so relevant. All right. Am I more or less trusting than my other half? If more trusting, give out more influence than they did. If less, give out less influence than they did. I'm guessing I'm more trusting, which means I need to give out more influence. How much influence total did you give out?
I gave it out to everybody. So everybody and then one more person.
Well, everyone have some influence. I don't know. Should I give 2 to someone?
But there's not really like it's either influence is like an either or thing. If either you've got it or you don't. If it comes up that later on you have a move where you get influence again over someone you already have influence over, then you get to shift their labels.
But don't do that right now.
But yeah, not right now. We're not getting into shifting labels just yet.
I'm just in terms of the.
Yeah, there's only so many people to give influence to, so.
Yeah. All right, so I'll just give it to everybody. Right?
And you automatically get it over your other half, and your other half automatically gets it over you.
Yes, that's the other. It's like pretty straightforward, really. And that's it, I think, for mine. Right?
Yep, that's the influence questions. And is there anything anybody else would like to add as far as character descriptors or anything like that before we take our first break and come up with something to throw at you based on what you've given me so far?
I have one tiny just like flavor thing to address as far as our portal power. So yeah, going back to the reference of the game series of Portal, how it was represented in that is that any individual will have kind of 2 primary color portals. So like I'd have like a blue and an orange, which I think is what I'll take for mine. Just being hyper traditional. Pearl, what would you have as your 2 primary? Like what links your main portal to your main other portal?
Not the same thing. I didn't even think of that. I like in my mind we're just like creating them with power, so I wasn't even thinking about objects and things. What would link? How would I?
Let me see if I can.
I don't even know how that works. Like the other portal, if it's further away, how would I put the thing there?
I'm gonna just share an image file. It
would be nice if the future were always Christmas.
So if you scroll down just into the gallery section, you see kind of what I was envisioning initially with the way that portals work is that it's these 2 kind of person-sized holes that you're able to throw onto a wall, and they connect each other. I'm just putting in like flavor text of like what the frame would look like in a comic book panel.
Okay. Sorry, I like got something much more complicated in my head somehow out of your question. So I think mine are shaped like stars, but they're big enough that you can still get through them easily. It's not like you have to watch out for the edges or anything. And that one is black and one is gold.
Awesome.
Okay, anybody else got anything they want to fill in on character basics or anything like that before we take our break? All right.
Sorry. Did you want to go over the choices for the Stars audience move, or is that not necessary?
Sorry, I'm muted myself. The audience move will jump in as soon as we come back. That'll be kind of our start of session zone.
Sounds good.
That's where that move comes in, right? If I remember correctly.
I think it's. The moves, it's when you seek help from your audience or when you accept or reject what your audience tells you about yourself. There's no like start of session, anything. It's just like a couple choices you make as background. And,
Yeah. Let's go ahead and because that's part of character creation. I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay. What's your audience basics?
Okay, yeah. So by default, it's a limited group of interested fans. You speak to them through after-action interviews and infrequent press conferences. For why does your audience love you? I picked you're stunning, unique, and beautiful. You're charming, well-spoken, and smart. And also, you're just like them. My two advantages are you can easily speak to them at any time because internet, and you have a much wider audience because internet. And then the two demands my audience makes on me are they require constant stimulation and they require novelty and brand new action.
Okay, so these folks are loyal, but you got to work for it. They expect a lot out of you.
Yeah, it's the the whole internet thing where you gotta keep pumping out content. Ben, I've been thinking a lot about that specific thing, and trust me, I have a whole picture in my head. So,
gotcha.
Ben talking for anybody watching, Ben talking in the chat about levitating your phone for hands-free shooting. And
of course, and just just be prepared that an occasional GM move might be for you to accidentally overcharge your phone.
Oh, of course. I mean, she keeps it she tries to keep it regular charged, just regularly. And also, I think she's developed enough control with her phone specifically to be able to sort of operate it remotely.
That's good.
The screen is conductive.
Oh, so many things can go wrong with that. I love it.
All right.
Okay. All right. Does anybody else have any move type decisions they need to make before we take our break? Okay. Don't see anybody raising hands or jumping up and down.
I had asked a question in the chat.
Okay.
Just so I mostly take moves from the Harbinger playbook, like 90% of what I do. So the team moves, do I take those from the Harbinger playbook in addition to the one that's in mine, or are those for whatever reason a separate thing?
I think basically you the way it reads here is you just have that one team move.
Okay. That's fine with me. It just there are various places in my playbook where it's like you have the same abilities as your joined person, and I'm like, is that all of them? Like, it just doesn't specify in some places. So, got it.
Of course, you've always got the the comfort and support version of that situation too. So there are all sorts of things that can come into play in those situations.
Comfort and support. I will look it up over the break.
Okay. All right. Let's take a let's see. We've been at it for about 2 solid hours, so let's take a 10-minute break. That'll give everybody a bio break, stretch your legs a little bit, and give me a chance to throw some good stuff together that will fill up our remainder of time and give you guys a chance to show off your cool powers. All right. I'll be back at 10 after. Let's see, Ben, are you back?
Yes, I am.
Okay. All right. Is everybody ready? Okay. I'm going to sort of hard frame up things for us, just so we're in a position. And once I do that, I'm going to give each of you an opportunity to give me your splash panel as to how you are in appearance in this particular situation. Comic begins. Got the first page. You have a very broad, almost panorama shot of this ancient looking, broken down, maybe in ruins. It's tough to tell from this far out. Fortress or castle. Each comic panel seems to pan in a little bit more, and with each pan in, we see these random bursts of energy from the top of the fortress, from within the fortress, middle of the fortress courtyard, some random bit of the external structure blows apart. And as we come farther in, we see a seriously weird looking see if I can figure out how to share this. I will. And of course, it does not want to share it. But I'm going to try it anyway. Here we go. Can you guys see that picture?
Yep.
Okay. We get a tight focus in on a character wearing a dark black cloak with that sort of strange, almost statue-like visage, hovering and floating about inside there, screaming in some sort of weird comic book style language. It's indecipherable gibberish in the comic panel. Obviously, it's some sort of inhuman speech pattern, and we see a bunch of obviously American high school age students. We can tell they're Americans because they are wearing various, a mix of various sports memorabilia that, as a general rule, only Americans would care about, like American, NFL football teams, that sort of thing. Stuff that's obviously connected to someplace in the U.S. And this being is fluttering about, screaming in that indecipherable language, and is just blasting at various parts of this structure. And as these blasts impact, you can see parts of the structure that's there blow apart, and we see some part of the structure reform in a slightly different way. So it's almost like as things are blowing apart, something else is appearing there, something that looks a little different, a little off, and maybe a little bit wrong. And by wrong, I mean like, ooh, that doesn't seem to work physically. Like that shouldn't be able to do that. Kind of wrong. And as we pan in, we come in to see all of our erstwhile cast. And I'm going to go in just right now in order of the character keeper. We're going to start off with our star to set our stage. What's your splash panel, Jack Flash?
Can I not be first, actually? Sorry, I just want to get a better picture of the situation first.
Sure, that's not a problem. Okay, we get in and we'll move to our harbinger. Give us your splash panel. What's the text that gives us your name right above you as you appear in this ancient fortress? It's along some sort of, it looks like Northern European coastline of some kind.
Okay. You said we're inside of a fortress? Because that's pertinent.
It's a ruined fortress. It's like, it's open air. It's kind of like if you went to like a ruin of an old castle. Like there's not really a roof on almost any part of this place anymore. It's all just walls and a couple of crumbling towers. Or it was until whatever this thing is started doing what it's doing.
So I think that our villain is doing their chanting, and then off to the side of the panel, you see the words just, "Hey, ugly, over here," and they turn, and we see standing on top of some kind of a high column is Vector, and he jumps off of the column and fires one of his portals down at the ground, and passes through it while our villain is still following the path of him falling, and we get an head-on shot of our villain. We can see over their shoulder another portal that's opening up on the side of a column. We see Vector shoots down through the portal that he's just created and comes back out, coming at basically terminal velocity, colliding with this person in the back.
Okay.
And what we see as far as their name splash is that their name starts getting written going into one of the portals and gets finished being written coming out of the other.
Oh, that is awesome, and the artist hates that writer so much right now. But that is brilliant. That's awesome. We need to roll directly engage a threat.
Okay.
Roll plus danger.
And we had
should be in there. If not, I can repost it.
Sorry, I know that it's in here on the move sheet, I think. Yeah, there we go. Okay, 2d6. Let me pick a color. Go with yellow. A 5 on the die with +1 gets me to 6. So that's not great.
Yeah, that's not great unless.
Do we have any
perhaps
team?
Can we use some team? Yeah,
Yes, you begin every time with team. So
You also have it joined.
Yes, everybody's not together yet, but as soon as everybody's together, then we'll do the quick calculation of team. But right now, you start out with 2.
Okay.
So does anybody else want to jump in with their comic panel to maybe help out?
I'll jump in.
You ready? Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So, what exactly? Like, how exactly is it going wrong? For.
I think. Yeah, I think that since so much of this use of portals is a matter of precision of physics, I overestimated the distance between the column that I was jumping onto and the ground, which means I was not going as fast as I would actually need to be going to have the forward momentum coming out of my portal. So like I'm coming out of it and it's clear that I'm going to be several feet shy of hitting them.
Okay. No physics in your comics, you're not gonna like me. So I think then again you get like a word balloon coming from off panel that's like, well, looks like I'm needed. And then next panel cuts to Jack like talking to her phone, which is like hovering in front of her with a Twitter live stream recording. And she I think what she does is she like stretches out her hand and like launches A bolt, but like for the purpose, what is the creature that the chanting thing made of?
It appears to be made of some sort of animate stone, is what it looks like. It has sort of, the skin has sort of a stone or concrete or marble-ish texture to it, but
Okay.
it's so malleable that it's hard to tell.
All right. I mean, if it has like metal or water in it, or if it can conduct, I can probably do something. So I think what it is Jack like launching a bolt, and then you see like the electricity hit and sort of like start circling around, and it true. Yeah, anything conducts electricity if you try hard enough. So I think it starts circling around this thing, and you see just it being pushed forward towards Taurus, so that he won't fall short. In fact, will be right in exactly the right place.
Okay, that gives you a +1 from the team that you just spent. We are now at team 1.
Okay, cool. So when you directly engage a threat on a 7 to 9, pick 1. I'm going to take something from them if I can take their mask.
Ooh. Here's the tricky part. That thing doesn't seem to be a mask, but it is wearing that cloak. So I think you can take the cloak away.
Okay, I'll take the cloak. With any luck, that's what's keeping them flying in the air.
Okay. So what you're really going for is you want to basically take them out of the air.
Yeah.
Is that okay? Then you got that. We'll say you managed to grab the cloak, and it whatever power was keeping it hovering, maybe you distracted it, maybe the cloak had something to do with it, but it crashes to the ground. Do you crash with it?
Yes.
You did not choose to avoid blows or avoid harm. So you're going to have to take a powerful blow as a part of this.
Okay.
Roll plus conditions marked.
Okay. Oh, ouch. That's fantastic. So that's a 10.
And nobody can help you on that one, I'm sorry to say.
Okay. I think absolutely then I lose control of myself or my powers in a terrible way. I think that I was already planning on adjusting. So as we're falling to the ground, I was already setting up another portal. We fall through it. It's up to you where we come out.
Ooh, all right. Okay. We'll come back to you. Sapphire. Give me your splash panel page. You see Vector like strike this thing. He clocks into it. He like smashes into it. He pulls this cloak down. They go crashing toward the ground, and you see that Vector looked like he was trying to open a portal to maybe take him out of that crash, but it took both of them out of that crash. They both vamped off to somewhere. You're not sure where, unless you want to try and figure out, use your powers and your link to figure out where in the bejesus they just went.
So I'm there for some reason, but like wasn't helping till now.
Well, I'm presuming that there's a ton of kids. Everybody's kind of scrambling around, and you are able to. This is your first appearance in this panel. We're presuming that you were doing superheroic stuff, trying to protect other kids, normal teachers.
Okay.
Before this portion here, this is your appearance. Give us your splash panel, and then tell me what you would like to do.
I have to think for a second because I was originally going to intervene with Taurus, but it looks like I'm a little too late.
Oh, you might still be able to get to where they are, but that's going to be that can be part of your move. You just tell me what you want to do.
Over time, we'll become better in synced.
Yeah. So I think, I finish handling. I think you just see like a zonk thing, which implies that I have like done something to a bad guy elsewhere or done some useful thing. And then I look over my shoulder and I'm like, oh, dang it. And then I run over to where is what has happened to the mask thing or non-mask thing at this point? The cloak has been taken, right?
Both the cloak, Vector, and that thing, that statue type thing. It didn't really have a mask, so he discovered that. Like he hit it, in the in the head. That
Nope.
mask thing didn't come off, but the cloak did, and they both went through one of his portals.
Without Star? I think I thought you were saying Star went through the portal with him.
No, I don't know.
Or
I didn't get the impression that.
Okay.
I don't think Jack Flash went through the portal. Jack Flash helped him by using electromagnetic fields in some comic book way to do that.
Okay. So I think the portal hasn't fully closed yet. It's like shrinking, and you see me just dive headfirst into it with a look of like sort of long-suffering resignation on my face.
Okay.
Here we go.
Do you think you're trying to maybe, are you trying to perhaps catch up with them, or?
Yeah, I need to end up wherever Vector is so that I can help. He's my joint, right? I would have, in fact, opened my own portal for him to fall into that would have like zoomed him back up to where I was, but I was too late. So instead, I am just diving into whatever portal he's opened and hoping for the best.
Okay. You dive through the portal. It's still closing. You guys are enough in sync to where you can make it through the portal without too much trouble. And you can see that Vector and that thing, whatever it is, are still tumbling through the air. And it's really hard to breathe up here. Apparently, Vector miscalculated, and this portal is like way up high, like hard to breathe high. You're not sure how high, but you're falling toward the earth. You can see clouds below you.
That's okay. We won't be this high up that long.
And you're not sure what in that thing and Vector are still sort of clamped together. You're not sure what's going on there, but they're still really close. They might be on top of each other. They might be holding on to each other. It's tough to tell from this far back, but that's what you're confronting. What do you want to do?
We're all falling through the air, like they're a little bit below me, but we're all just like up high and falling.
Right, and they're sort of sprawled out a little bit because that thing's, I mean, it's not trying to like shorten its wind resistance. So it's like it's slowing things down a little bit because of what it's doing, which is basically just sprawling out. So you might be able to catch up to it if you want to do like that nosedive thing.
Yeah, I think I dived into the portal, so I think I'll keep my like diving position and nosedive straight towards them. And then I'm just gonna grab on to like Vector's arm and be like, we'll talk later, and teleport us back to where we were before we went through the portal.
Okay. I think that sounds like that sounds like an unleash your powers move.
Okay. Roll for the party, and then unleash your powers.
Also see it as a defend, depending on.
That's true.
You're not technically under threat right now from an external source. This was just basically the result of you losing control of your powers.
Sorry, I like print things out because I'm bad at remembering things. Unleash your powers is roll plus freak. Is that right?
Yes.
Okie dokie. So I got an 8 before freak. What is my freak stat? 2. No, that's somebody else's. 0. So I have an 8.
Okay. It is unstable or temporary unless you want to take a condition to make it permanent.
What would I
be permanent?
Permanent.
No, I mean like either the solution that you've come up with is going to be unstable in some way. Like maybe you're trying to teleport away. Maybe that thing gets into the mess and is going to follow you through in some way. Something else could happen. Like I said, you made the roll, so you will get away, but there will be another complication unless you decide to mark a condition to head off any possible complications.
Oh, complications are fine. We can handle them.
Okay. Not a problem. Okay, your portals are shaped like stars, right?
Yes.
Okay, describe to us how you open that portal, how you guys go through it, and where you end up.
Oh, I was gonna literally teleport since I can do that and Vector
well,
can't yet.
just tell me where you appear out of another part of the scene.
I was trying to teleport us back to where the original portal was created, just back to wherever that was.
Okay.
With
That's a little. That's maybe the original portal that Vector accidentally created for them. Appeared about, I think it was maybe about probably 10 feet off the ground because he was trying to push that thing into it.
Mhm.
So you guys just appear about 10 feet off the ground. That's not a fall that's going to give you any problems. You guys are superheroes, and Vector's costume has impact absorption, as I recall. So
both of ours do. We have the same costume.
oh well, then you're both fine. It's a little
Okay.
awkward, but especially for Vector because he wasn't quite ready to for that to happen. But you guys are back.
I like the idea that maybe I like smacked both of our wrists right before impact, so our costumes like sprung on to make us impact resistant.
Is it bracelets or necklaces? I thought it was necklaces.
Is it necklaces? All right, smack both of our necklaces. But like, because I know what I'm doing with teleporting us back, and he has no idea. I'm just like, no, fine, just teleport, smack, smack, and we crash to the ground. Does that make sense?
That's perfect. And is that and it basically is that sudden return where you've rescued Vector? Is that your splash panel? Where your little nameplate flashes across the top?
I feel like there should be like one last thing.
Sure.
Maybe just like something to the effect of like, next time, how about you give me like 5 seconds to get here? But like more superhero-y. Someone think of something, some way for me to sort of like lovingly but snarkily grouse at Vector for that entire scene.
Vector, do you have any suggestions for the quick snappish banter you two have worked out?
I think we start to get those first indications of the finishing each other's sentences. So if you come across and say like, the next time when you decide to rush into battle, and I can just finish it and say, wait until you show up.
That is perfect. And I think that can be my splash panel.
And then your nameplate shows up. What kind of like nameplate does it give you? What kind of flashes across the top of the panel show us?
I finally picked my superhero name, which is going to be Joule, but spelled Joule, as in the physics term.
Oh, that is perfect.
Thank you. It took me a while. I don't know why. I was like looking at all these physics terms, and that was on the list. And I was like, oh, my name is Sapphire. I should be called Joule. So I think I had an actual, like, really concrete idea for this that I just got confused about a second ago. Because I want it to reflect both like a traditional jewel, but also the energy. So maybe it is my name in a thing the shape of a jewel, but giving off a bunch of energy because a jewel is a unit of energy.
That sounds fine to me. Is it obviously a sapphire shape?
I think it probably is.
Okay. Perfect. All right. And I think at that point, you see above where you guys are, hit, the splash panel happens, and just above where you guys impacted, you see another rip or tear open up, and that thing comes back through, and it's not flying like it was because that cape's gone, but it's not falling like it should either. Like it comes through, it was going down head first before, it comes through feet first and does like not a superhero landing. It doesn't do a 3-point stance. It lands solidly feet down, but it doesn't act like there's any sort of real physical impact to it. Like it looks like it should. Like it looks like there's something should have happened to the ground. Something else should have been going on. But this thing is having some sort of really strange impact on the physical laws around it, and its interactions with physical materials. And then Eclipse. What do you do?
So I think you get like a couple brief or like smaller panels that show Eclipse out of costume. So I guess as Alex, just sort of standing very coolly. There's like all of the energy bursts, like the things shaping that the villain's doing around him, and he's just kind of standing with his hands in his pockets, and you just see his eyes go up to like clearly following where they like teleported up, and then come back down, and he doesn't react. And then he just says, and it like goes wide, and he's like, "We're really doing this, huh?" And then the next one is him like full crack of energy as he charges his burn, and like his costume, swooshes on, and he's got his cape, and there's purple energy swirling around him, and he's like doing his levitating off the ground like a storm or what have you. So I will charge my burn while I'm at it. Which I roll plus conditions, which I don't have any, but I'm sure that will change soon. So that's a 6, I think. I don't know if it rolled.
You rolled a 6.
Maybe.
What colors were your dice?
I am purple, but I had a 3 and a 3 when I did a test roll, so I can't tell if it.
That's where it gets tricky. If you want to, what you can do on that site is click on your 2 dice, and it should highlight them, and then you can click reroll selected.
Oh, okay.
That should give it.
All right. Okay.
Ooh, I'm not sure that didn't help much.
No.
Okay. So, and I don't think there's anything anybody can do for you on that. There's no team that's going to help that.
No. So on a miss, hold 2 burn and mark 3 conditions. So we're in it.
You're going to be really good at charging your burn next time.
Yep. Oof. What am I? I'm angry. Obviously, this thing's attacking us.
Oh, and on the conditions on the sheet, if you put like an X or a 1 in the little highlight, sort of gray highlighted portion right by the condition name, it will actually give you the effects and also tell you what you need to do to clear them. It's a really helpful character sheet.
I think I am angry, insecure, and guilty. I'm not afraid or hopeless yet, because like we're just gonna fight this thing. It's not gonna be a problem.
Got you. So maybe you're feeling guilty about holding back until this point.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I can see that. That sounds workable to me. Okay.
But so I do have 2 burn for now.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna just go ahead, and that thing has come back down, and it's standing there, and I'm gonna summon a bunch of energy and shoot a purple beam at this thing.
Okay. How are you going to use your burn, or are you just going to simply directly engage a threat with your power?
I'm going to use Reality Storm, I think. So I can spend 1 burn to directly engage a threat using Freak instead of Danger.
Yep.
So let's roll that. That is a 7 on the dice plus 2, so that's a 9.
Very good.
Oh, I do get to mark potential. So I don't know if we could use our last team to push that to a 10, or we could just.
Does anybody want to pop up? Maybe Ben? Does Black Block want to intervene here and like maybe distract or assist?
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact,
and you can give us your splash panel when you do after you and then tell us how you assist.
Okay, I need a second to think about this because I'm trying to check a couple moves here.
Okay. You don't necessarily have to roll a move at this point. You can just say I'm assisting him, and then just say how you assist. That part doesn't require a roll yet. Then you'll get to actually make your own move at this point. This is just to help resolve help resolve Eclipse's move.
Right. I'm looking at Troublemaker,
Ooh, okay.
so that when I help a teammate through destructive, criminal, or rule-breaking actions, they get +2 instead of +1 when I spend team. Would that matter?
I'm not necessarily
Doesn't, but I
sure if
think you
you're
should
breaking.
do it anyway.
Sorry?
Sorry, I said it doesn't, but I think you should do it anyway.
I'm not necessarily sure if he's actually breaking any rules at this point, because your class has been attacked, so this would be one of the things that you could generally expect a superhero-y type team to do.
What was the roll?
But his attacks are destructive. So this is an ancient archaeological site. So throwing around like cosmic energy blasts, probably a little destructive.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I could swing that here. If you were in a regular city, that's used to being built and rebuilt all the time. This is an archaeological
No,
site.
no,
So
I've got it. So, places, many stories, but no roofs. I assume there are some like crumbling parapets that look down over this open space in the middle.
oh yeah, as many as
So-
you want.
So, the splash page is a series of panels running diagonally from the top left down to the lower right, overlapping each other at the corners. And you see in the first panel, Black Block pulls up their bandana, covering their face and becoming indistinct, stepping backwards into the shadow of a pillar, and then reappearing on a parapet up above the scene down below. And in the third panel, they shove a loose stone off and down towards this villain character. Attempting to at least get their attention, if not actually clock them. Which I'm going to suggest is destructive and criminal. And also counts would get, wow, wait. Oh, and then I take +1 forward. Great, because I have team.
Gotcha. Okay, so right now we're at team 0. You've spent the team that gives +1 to our to the Nova, to Eclipse. So you now get a 10+ result on your move. What are your choices from directly engage a threat?
I would like to, impress, surprise, or frighten them with my awesome display of power, and create an opportunity for my allies.
Okay. All right. Now, here's the thing: you did not take resist or avoid blows here. So,
Mhm.
just FYI. Okay.
And you have 3 conditions marked already.
It'll be fine. This is the life as the Nova.
Okay, so what you've got here is you have this. You see him like charge up his energy. Panel focuses in on that. Then you see that snap off to the side with Black Block. You see that chunk of masonry or stonework topple toward this being. It crashes across them, causing them to stumble forward just as they were looking towards Eclipse as he charged up. And then in the midst of that stumble, Eclipse, you just blast the living bejesus out of that thing. It flies backwards with the force of your cosmic energy. Now, effect wise, is this like a burning effect? Is it a just explosive effect where it's going to just knock them around and cause a lot of collateral damage in addition to whatever you do? Is it like the rhymy, cold of the depths of space sort of thing? What kind of elemental effect do you think goes along with what you're doing?
I think it's probably explosive, in the sense that, especially as a Nova, you're always probably committing collateral damage. I think it's, that kind of comics logic where like it basically looks like a laser or something like highly destructive, but when it hits people, it only sort of like pushes them around rather than doing anything gnarly to them.
It's like a Star Wars blaster. It explodes when it hits.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. The bolt of cosmic energy hits it. It is just blasted backwards, away from you, away from pretty much everybody, and into a wall. And as it impacts that wall, it sort of just it slumps, and it raises its head back up to you, and its eyes begin to glow. And you you each sort of feel this presence. It's not a harsh presence. It's more like a searching presence in your thoughts, and then you feel this speech begin to form. You kind of hear it, but not really. It's almost just more like it's almost like these things are being projected at you, like in some medium beyond sound. But you all hear the same thing. What are you? You were not here when we were here. You are not the uplifted apes that were slowly stalking northward. What are you? And it's looking like directly at you, Eclipse.
I think he just gets the real simple, smug, like, I'm Eclipse, and he's flexing his magic powers.
The cape flutters ominously. Okay.
Can I call over to it after
Sure.
Eclipse's statement? I'm just gonna add on, like he says, I'm Eclipse, and his cape flutters all majestically, and I say, and you're not the only one around here who can time travel either, so maybe step it down.
He's the entity sort of looks toward each of you, and even looks up to where you were, Black Block, because it, for some reason, it seems to be able to sense you up there, and it's looking around, and now you guys are confronting a threat as a team. So we need to build up that team for our next little round of fun with this thing.
I think we all know who the leader is.
Eclipse.
Mm-hmm.
Rude.
I think most of us know who the leader is.
So, all right, well, let's go down. Let's start with Jack Flash. Jack, who's the leader?
Is this a voting situation, or?
Well, it seemed like
I
there was a
don't-
little bit of, I mean, unless you guys are all in agreement, it sounded like there might be a little disagreement.
Okay, well, Jack obviously thinks she's the leader.
Okay, so we got one vote for Jack. Vector, who's the leader?
I think Eclipse is the leader right now.
Okay. Black Block, who's the leader?
Vermin Supreme, no gods, no masters. No, Eclipse is fine.
Eclipse, who's the leader?
I think Eclipse thinks Eclipse is the leader.
Okay. Jewel, who's the leader?
Clearly, it's Eclipse.
Okay, we've got some disagreement, so we don't get any bonuses for that part. Okay.
Even if there's disagreement about the leader, Does Eclipse have influence over all of us?
Well, if we have a disagreement over the leader, so right now we're gonna move through. If we're gonna say that right now the overall agreement seems to be, even though we do have a dissenting vote, that that the team leader is going to be Eclipse. Does Eclipse have influence over every other teammate?
I think I'm missing. I have influence over Jack, Taurus, Black Block, and Sapphire. That's everyone, right? So yes.
Okay, so you add one team to the pool, so that's 3 team. If everyone has the same purpose in the fight, we can add another team. Team leader de facto right now is Eclipse. Eclipse, what is your team's purpose in this fight?
I think without much other stuff going on, it's pretty clearly just to defeat whatever this creature is that's harassing us.
Okay, Jack, do you agree with that purpose?
Yeah, I think she also wants to make a good live stream. But in the end, defeating this thing does come first.
Okay, all right, that's one agreement. Vector, do you agree?
Yeah, I want to eliminate them as a threat primarily.
Okay. Black Block, do you agree?
Sure.
Jewel, do you agree?
This never ever happens with the first fight of a mass campaign.
Okay, so we've got 4 team right now. If any member mistrusts the leader of the leader or the team, we have to remove a team. Jack, do you trust Eclipse and the team?
I do not trust Eclipse.
Okay, so we lose one team there. All right.
Hey,
so
remember that time you hurt me?
Yeah,
Eclipse?
it really came back immediately.
That's legit. That's legit. So we're at 3 team. Is your team ill prepared or off balance? I don't know that you guys were necessarily prepared for this fight, but if you've got an explanation as to why you might have been, certainly let me know. My instinct is that you probably weren't prepared to face whatever this thing is in the middle of a school field trip.
I think
we'd have. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think ultimately it comes down to your call, Chris. It feels to me like Eclipse got this entity on its back feet, but if that is not the case, then we are not prepared.
Okay, well, right now it seems like this thing is impressed or surprised or frightened. So based on our fiction right now, I think you guys might have been ill prepared to confront this thing originally, but you have it off balance at this point.
Yeah, I think that's fair. We made a surprise recovery.
So you've got so right now we're at 3 team. We have had 1 team removed from the pool, but the leader of the team can cancel that and have a total of 4 team in the pool if they want to mark a condition.
I'm gonna abstain, having already marked 3 conditions.
Okay, that's probably a wise decision. Okay, and you did not choose to resist or avoid blows either, so that's still floating out there. Okay, so we have 3 team in the team pool now. Remember, if it comes to it, you can also choose to use team selfishly if you wish, and we can confront that if anyone decides to do that at some point. Okay.
I got a thing.
Huh?
I've got a thing.
Oh yeah, go for it. What you got?
So Black Block is perched up high, looking down over this scene. And I think that gives them a really good vantage from which to assess the situation.
Oh, that's probably a very good idea.
So,
Give me a roll plus superior.
2d6. What did I get? That looks like 6 plus superior, which is in another window. Why did I set this up that way? 4 and 8.
I do that all the time. So, all right. So you got a total of 8. So, if you look at your look at your moves,
basic moves,
you get a 1 question out of the assess the situation list, which is what here can I use to do something? What here is the biggest threat? What here is in the greatest danger? what here is most vulnerable to me, and how could we best end this quickly?
Okay, so from that list, I'm going to go with how could we best end this quickly, and then because I have criminal mind, I get to ask one more question from another list.
Go for it. What's your extra question?
The extra question
Or
is...
do you want me to answer the first question and then let you figure out what your next one will be?
Let's go with the first one first.
Okay. All right. How could you best end this quickly? One of your teammates has just mentioned that this thing might be some sort of time traveler, maybe dimension traveler, something like that. This thing did just seem to pop up out of nowhere, out of this area, and whatever it was doing to the fortress, because you noticed that earlier, seemed to be replacing what's here with something else.
Placing the fortress with something else.
Right. Like every time one of its blasts hit one of these crumbling walls, like that wall was changed to something else. It was still some sort of structure, but it was definitely not like the structure that was here before.
Okay, then my second question is, how could I best infuriate or provoke that thing?
So, let me finish that. Let me finish that thought, because I got to give you how you can best end this quickly. This thing is some sort of time or dimensional traveler. You've got two time travel, dimension travel people, with powers that can bend and warp space, maybe time too. They might be able to interfere with whatever energy or power brought this thing here, activated it, pulled it out of wherever the heck it was. You might have some sort of leverage on it from that angle, and that might probably be the best. Rather than trying to just beat it to death, beat it into submission, that might be a way to get rid of it more quickly. So, what was your follow-up question from your delinquent move list?
Follow-up was, how could I best infuriate or provoke that thing?
It seemed, based on what you heard it say, or thought it said something, whatever speech type effect it was using, it seemed to be confused by what exactly you all were, and it seemed to only have memories of humanity, if that's what it was talking about, as some sort of barely sapient or barely sentient apes. So if you hit it there, like insulted it by maybe how far humanity has come, how whatever this thing is has been maybe left behind, maybe that might be a button you can push on it based on what it's said so far.
Okay.
It's a little flat-footed right now after Eclipse knocked it into that wall. It was not expecting anything to be able to confront it on that power scale.
Okay. I'm gonna try an illusion thingy. You know the original, what is it called? The procession of man. You've got the different stages of evolution. I'm gonna create the image of the procession of man marching in a circle around the feet of floating statue guy. It's at least a distraction.
Okay. Are you using? You have that delinquent move. Are you watching closely? Right. Is that the kind of effect you're going for?
Yes.
Like a trick and distract sort of thing?
Trick and distract. Like there are different kinds of humans it might and might not recognize, and I want it to be puzzled by this parade in front of it for a sec.
Okay. I think you can easily do that. Give me a roll on your Are you watching closely? Tell me what you get.
Plus superior. Which looks like a 7 plus 2 or 9. Which 7 and 9, choose 2. So I'm going to choose to get an opportunity and expose a weakness or flaw.
Okay. All right. As it is concentrating on these illusions you've created, and all of you can kind of see this this effect too. You can probably recognize Black Block's style of illusion, so you guys kind of get the impression of what's happening here. And I don't think Black Block, you're not trying to hide it from them that you're doing this, are you?
No.
Okay.
To them to do some timey-wimey nonsense now that I've given them the chance, but I'm up on it.
Okay. It seems to sort of focus in on these illusions, like it's trying to understand what they are and what that image is trying to convey to it. And its eyes are shifting color now. Before it was this sort of brightly, sort of like bright, almost like halogen light blue sort of effect. And now it's gone to this sort of pinkish color, as it's just seems to be puzzled. Like this thing doesn't have facial expressions because it's just that dead, stonish, affectation. But the vibe you're getting from whatever emotive waves are emanating from this thing seems like it's a little bit confused as to what's being presented here, and how this is this thing's supposed to mean. So it is obviously distracted, and confused, and maybe a little bit afraid after what Eclipse did to it. And I think we've got some spotlight time here that I think maybe the star should get a chance to step into. Jack?
So we've got like bits of like broken ramparts and stuff, right? Like that have crumbled.
Oh yeah. And this is an archaeological site, so there are also like lights and stuff that have been hung up so people can see, that sort of thing.
All right, I want to bring up one of those over its head and smash it.
Okay.
Although,
a piece of masonry down, or one of the
like a big, piece of big. One of the big pieces of masonry, just like a big piece of rock to smash it with.
Okay. There's enough rock, and it's the stone here has enough like metallic impurities in it, I think, for you to easily manipulate it just to drop it. If you wanted to do something fancy, that might be a little trickier. But I'll say, are you trying to? It sounds like you're trying to directly engage a threat. Am I reading your intentions right?
Yeah, I think like it's more with the intention of like immobilizing it than like killing
not
it necessarily. But
it.
I think directly engage the threat is the right spirit of the thing.
Okay, so you're not necessarily trying to drop a stone on its head, but maybe pin it. That sort of thing. Okay, all right.
I mean, if I heard it in the meantime, like, bonus. And also, so I have the move Stage Fighting. When you directly engage a threat with an audience watching, mark a condition to roll superior instead of danger.
Well, you're certainly filming, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I've still got my phone like swooping around at all good angles.
You have all your classmates watching too.
Oh yeah. I mean that. Yeah, but who cares about them? Yeah.
Okay, so give me a roll to directly engage a threat with
I'm gonna
that you want to use.
Well, my danger is -1, so I'm gonna mark insecure to roll with superior instead. That's a 5. Wow. That's bad. Looks like you don't need to intervene after all, Jill.
Okay. So here's the thing. Your power goes off. That's not a problem. What happens though You do get to mark potential. That's the great thing about making that roll. Just as it was earlier, anybody who rolls a 6 or less on any move gets to mark potential. Now, the stone tumbles down straight at this thing, and it impacts it. And again, that weird physical effect that this thing seems to have on the environment around it. The stone hits it like solidly, but it just sort of rolls down it like this, like the stone was a drop of water that you just dripped onto the back of a duck. Just, and that seems to have snapped it out of whatever daze it's in, unfortunately. And it immediately focuses on Jack Flash. It was staring at the little dancing progression of man, excuse me, illusion. Now those eyes are looking dead at you, and they are no longer glowing pinkish. They are glowing deep, deep red.
Can I jump in to defend?
That's what I was going to say. Can we jump in to defend, in fact?
Well, here's the thing. Both of y'all can be a part of that. I don't necessarily mind that, but one of you has to make the roll. Who wants to make the roll?
I have my idolization of
You might be quicker to jump in there then, you think?
Yeah. And it may or may not be a good time as well to connect the dots with Jack, but we can save that for, I'd say, even next session. Start getting that stuff filled in.
I think so. All right. This thing is, it's looking straight at Jack. And it raises its hand, and it releases this wave of that sort of odd, I don't know what a good way to describe it, but the color of the energy it seems to emit is some sort of mix of like deep indigo with like tinges of yellow, like interspersed with it, like quartz veins inside one of those little, pieces of rock you can always find at those little crystal stores. Like a geode, it's got like, the exterior portion is purplish, but it's got this sort of crackling internal bits of yellow inside it. And that energy wave is rolling straight at Jack. And Jack, this is part of your directly engage a threat, so you're going to have to take a powerful blow.
Hell yeah.
Plus conditions marked.
All right. I have one of those. So now will be the time I roll high. Watch. Oh, no, that's a 6. Wait.
All right.
6
Wait, what just happened? It went from 5 to 6. Okay, it was either a 6 or a 7. I'm unclear on that. It was a 5, and I think it just like rolled a 5 and a 1. Must have been. And it was saying it just took a moment for the last roll total to update. So that's a 7.
Okay. All right. On the 7 to 9, you get to choose off of that list.
Yeah, let me pull up the list.
You can choose either lash out verbally, provoke a teammate to foolhardy action, or take advantage of your influence to inflict a condition on one of your teammates. You can give ground. Your opposition will get an opportunity. Or you can struggle past the pain by marking conditions.
I want to lash out verbally at Sapphire, I think.
Okay. You're lashing out at Jewel, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's just she yells like, I don't know, where is Jewel right now?
She and Vector are like right next to each other. They had just come back out of that, appeared in midair and dropped to the ground after that initial contact with the thing. So they're still sort of standing where they fell to the ground, and which is conveniently enough close enough to you guys for you to snap at her, should you choose to do so.
Yeah. All right, I think Jack just yells, And stop screwing around and do something. Help me out here.
Now, are you going to inflict a condition? Do you have influence over her, or
I would rather provoke them to foolhardy action.
okay? What kind of foolhardy action do you think you're provoking them to? Just to like jump in without thinking?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll buy that.
I think that would throw off the plans that we've been talking about in the chat of trying to do a fastball special.
I could also inflict a condition.
Well, no.
Oh, okay. Good kind of throwing off. Okay.
Yeah. No, I think it's narratively good.
All right.
You can just change who gets to be.
Jewel and I had been setting up and planning a coordinated attack, and now you're being provoked to break off the coordinated part of it.
Yeah, basically, oh, you heard what I mean. Both of you were right close to each other. You both heard what Jack said.
And I think I say, no, wait, hold on, and get cut off by whatever you're about to do next.
Jewel?
Sorry, I was muted. I think I'm just going to sort of, oh, for Pete's sake, and teleport over to where I keep wanting to just say Star. That's Jack, where Jack is. Grab Jack and teleport back.
Okay.
And then look at him and be like, or her, and be like, do you really, like, can you ever just slow it down?
Okay. Do you think you are like? This sounds like a defend move to me, but it could. I mean, I could read it as an unleash your powers, depending on what you're trying to accomplish. It sounds closer to defend based on what I'm hearing.
I mean, I'm mainly just irritated, having been provoked and whatnot. Like, I had a plan going with my joined person, and like, just Jack won't ever stop being Jack, so someone had to swoop in, you know. But I don't even know that I had like a specific intention other than to get Jack to like just stop.
So you're not trying to necessarily protect. You're just basically yanking them over there so you can just
so they're out of the way more than anything else. But I think I would have defended if I had thought it was really necessary. But that wasn't really what was on my mind. It was just like,
okay, well then no roll necessary for that. You mean the teleport happens. You're not necessarily trying to defend them, so they don't get in. There's no special bonuses there. They're just closer to where you guys are now. And that happens.
And I just be like, can you just stay here until you have something you can do, please? And then like turn back to Vector.
Okay. All right. That's gonna be what's happening with you, Vector. Do you want to try and do something while your other half Jewel is berating Jack Flash?
Yeah, and I'm trying to think of what specifically I want to do. Yeah, I think that I'm definitely thrown off by Jewel just kind of like abandoning what was about to be our approach on this, and that's throwing me off a bit. I think that I want to take a moment to get a sense of what this thing is after. I know that we've established a bit about it already, but
okay. Do you want to try and?
I want to try to pierce the mask.
Ah, very good. Yeah. Okay, roll, unless you have some other move that affects this, roll plus mundane.
I don't have another move, and mundane's not great for me, so this could be fun. I always find that, pierce the mask and assess the situation, it's tough to narratively cause them to happen. Okay, that's a miss.
And they cross-pollinate a good bit, too, sometimes. Yeah. Okay, so you rolled a miss?
Yeah.
Okay. You're trying to just look at this thing and see how it's reacting, and that stone face is just absolutely just dead to you. You can't get a mood read off it at all. The only emotive part of this thing right now seems to be those eyes. And those don't really give you an indication that like they don't narrow, they don't widen, nothing. They just glow. There's some slightly different colors. Exactly. It's not a mask. It's not a mask at all. That's where you're going wrong. No, it and it turns to all three of you because y'all are right next to each other now, and it says, or thinks, or projects. Still not sure exactly how it's doing this. Even pretentious apes should still know their place. And it raises its hands and it erupts forth with this wave of that crackling, purple and yellow energy that washes towards you. And that's where we're going to stop for tonight because we are about already 20 minutes past time, I think. That will kind of end with that cliffhanger, and you guys can think about like how you're going to react to what that thing is throwing at you for next time. Since we are at the end of session, Masks has its own end of session moves, and we go and we take a look at these. So when we come to the end of the session, let me move over here. I go through some questions with each of you. We'll run through these if everybody has time. If anybody needs to, if we got folks who need to leave, I can certainly run through these questions at the beginning of next session. Does anybody have to take off now? I know we're a bit past time.
Good.
See, everybody give me a thumbs up if you're good. Or Ben, can you just say it because I can't see your thumb?
I'm good.
Okay. All right. So it sounds like we got everybody here for these questions, so we'll run through them. All right. So I'm going to go through these questions in the order that they're in the Character Keeper. So we're going to start off with Jack Flash. Did you go closer to the team, into your own image of yourself, or away from the team this session?
I'm going to say away, because Jewel has just been very hostile, completely unprovoked.
That is literally not true. You specifically removed. No.
Completely unprovoked, undeserved hostility.
So you have, I think that's an explanation of why you feel detached. So you can take influence over you away from one other character.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna take away Jules' influence over me.
Okay. You got it.
You can't tell me what to do.
All right, let's go to our next character along our Character Keeper left or right line, and that will be our Harbinger, Vector. Did you grow closer to the team, into your own image of yourself, or away from the team?
I think that I feel, I feel closer to the team, if only because this is just another opportunity for us to start coordinating on things. I think that just knowing that we can go into this with common purpose is giving me confidence that I've signed up with the right crew. So because of that, I'm going to offer influence to our brave and fearless leader, Eclipse. And since you already have influence, that means that, Eclipse, you can shift my labels.
You also get to clear a condition or mark potential.
I will mark potential because I had no conditions marked.
Okay, Eclipse, you get to shift Vector's labels.
Okay, just 1 second. I think there's an earthquake, like literally, where I am, like out of character. I think.
Wow.
Do you have anything
getting somewhere to safety? Is it over? Sorry, that was really random, but like literally, like the room started shaking.
Hey, if you got to get somewhere safe, go. I mean, we'll pick up. We can pick up with this another time.
No, I think it's over. Let me
Want to
just.
get your laptop closer to the doorway, even?
So, two things. One, I'm not wearing pants, so I should turn off the camera if I'm going to get up. And two, I feel like I should just look online and see if there's any. When I typed in earthquake Las Vegas, which is where I am, is the first thing that came up. So, magnitude 3.3 earthquake appears to be. No, I've been in worse ones. I hope that's not like a precursor to something. Anyway, sorry to interrupt. That was just really disconcerting.
No, that's definitely important enough to interrupt our silly game stuff. If you need to, if you need to take off, you take off, and we'll deal with it come next session. Don't worry.
I think I'm good. I mean, like, if a worse earthquake happens, I will probably open door it, and you can just assume that I'll be back only if the earthquake stops and I'm not dead. But otherwise, I think we're good. Other than I'm unsettled. Earthquakes and PTSD are not a great combination. That was just like a little bit alarming, but I'm good.
Earthquakes are unsettling enough anyway, so I can certainly see how that could be a bigger problem.
Yeah, their comments about it are showing up on Twitter. Yep, Las Vegas.
I know one of my friends is like on vacation there, so yeesh. Okay, so we'll jump back in, and if anybody has to take off, not a problem. So Eclipse, you can shift vectors labels, one label up, one label down, your choice. You can explain what you want it, why you're doing it that way if you want to, or you can just do it.
I want you right now, and perhaps in life, to shift your danger up. Because I am fighting, because we're all fighting this thing, and I'm kind of secretly a fan of like fighting things and using our powers. So I'm feeling this, and I want you, I guess, to shift your mundane down.
Okay.
Because we're not normal people, right? Like, this is the life. We're doing super stuff.
Yeah.
You're jumping through portals. I'm shooting lasers. Like, let's not be mundane. Let's be danger.
I totally buy that too.
My mundane is getting dangerously low, though.
Mm-hmm.
That'll be something that Chris can play with.
How often do you really need to be normal? I mean, come on.
Oh, but I'll be marking conditions if anybody tries to push my mundane lower.
Well, who could possibly want you to be weirder? I mean, no. Okay, that'll give me some nice fodder for other moves later on. Okay, Black Block. Did you grow closer to the team, away from the team, or into your own image of yourself?
I think to maintain honesty, I have to go with grow away from the team. I think, I mean, it's kind of, I noticed it's kind of reflected in labels. I have the highest mundane in the group by at least 2 points. And I think, like, being surrounded by a bunch of time travelers feels like it's a very different, it's a whole different world of problems than what Black Block is thinking about and like wishes were their problems to solve.
That's legit.
Okay. Yeah. So I think you get to
influence.
Yeah. Who you want to take influence away from?
And I think it's going to be Eclipse.
That makes sense, since they were the leader in this particular instance of combat.
Yeah, I think Black Block is not entirely sure why Eclipse would be the leader or why they had to fight this thing, but it's pretty clear that this thing is interested in all these time traveling wingnuts and kind of resent them a little bit for having made this situation.
Well, admittedly, I mean, Eclipse is the only one with a cape, so.
I mean, there's always the cape. Thing is hideous and it has to go.
Okay.
History will prove me right.
All right. So next is we go to Eclipse. Did you grow closer to the team, away from the team, or into your own image of yourself?
I think I grew into my own image of myself. Like, I'm sure things could and will get worse from here, but like so far I'm feeling good. I charged my powers. Well, I did mark a bunch of conditions, but like I blasted this thing. I'm like doing it. I want to be a superhero. I'm being a superhero. It hasn't gone horribly wrong yet. So
I think I can see that. I can see that. And you get to shift one label up and one label down. Explain how you see yourself now and why.
That sounds like a savior up, doesn't it?
Either that or freak up.
I'm wondering, it could be freak or danger because we're fighting this thing.
Legit.
Yo, that thing is hot and it didn't even know what you are. You're freak.
Yeah, I feel that. I'm all about freak to begin with. So I think my freak goes up. And I mean, does my mundane go down to? I mean, that's a little bit.
You get to choose which stat goes down and which stat goes up. You said your freak goes up by 1, so one other stat has to go down by 1. It could be any stat.
What do you feel the least like right now? It sounds like mundane, but it isn't.
No, it's probably not. It's probably mundane. Anyway, we did that with Taurus, but I think it's true. It's either that or savior.
Freak and mundane tend to be on a balancing act for almost everybody. Same deal with danger and mundane. People usually balance those out.
Yeah, I'm gonna say mundane.
Okay, sounds fine to me. All right, then we move to our joined. Jewel. Did you go
Hey.
closer to the team, away from the team, or into your own image of yourself?
Sorry, I'm still a little bit shaken up, literally and figuratively. But closer to the team, away from the team, or closer to myself, is that right?
Well, into your own image of yourself. Are you becoming more of what you see yourself as? Are you getting closer to the team, or are you getting just away from the team? Like, it's more like, are you becoming more isolated, do you think? Are you becoming more of who you want to be, or are you becoming more of a team player?
I mean, I think I'm trying to decide between sort of growing into my own thing and probably growing into my. It's hard. That was a weird fight, because there's like one member of the team I'm obviously not growing closer to. But I wouldn't say that is the way I feel about the whole team. And I still really want to be a part of the team. But probably more into myself. Sorry, like I said, I'm a little bit fuzzy at the moment.
I mean, I'd maybe suggest, as far as like arc goes, the growing into your own image of yourself for the joined really means growing to not see yourself as being just the same person as the Harbinger.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I don't want to do that. It's like I almost feel like I'm growing into our bond and my realization that, like, the rest of the team aside, like, I want to.
I mean, like, even that is a legit grow into your own image of yourself. Whether it's becoming more distinctive from me or more alike, like, that's an important part of your identity, I think.
Yeah, I think maybe that's what it is growing more into my feeling of like this partnership that is important, and like having to fight something that seems peripheral, and then also having to worry about them being knocked out or whatever else before we could question it when it seems like it could be important to the timeline thing, has made me realize how much of a priority, in addition to being part of a team and doing good, but how much of a priority it remains that Vector and I pursue our goals.
Mm-hmm.
And that my hoping to work with Vector and not working was like exceptionally frustrating, which makes me realize how much I don't want to say rely on Vector, but like how much that partnership is important in my like daily functioning.
Yeah,
so
that sounds like a superior bump to me, but that's totally up to you.
Yeah, with growing into your own image
figured out.
Yeah, with growing into your own image, you get to shift one label up and one label down of your choice. So you can decide which one goes up and which one goes down.
Okay. Maybe savior goes up because I'm trying to save the world, or
That's legitimate. What do you think you would focus less on?
that's the thing. I don't really want to bring anything down.
Nobody wants to bring anything down, but something's got you. You've lost focus on something.
I know. I don't know what it is. Sorry.
I
I'm
know that
really
our
jumbled.
Being
freak is super fun for us, but I almost see if you're seeing yourself as less of a unique person and part of a whole, that sounds like it would be a reduction in freak.
You could also
Oh.
lower your savior. Like maybe you're focused on doing something other than, or excuse me, lower your superior. Maybe you're thinking you're not necessarily better than everybody else, but you've got to do this thing, kind of thing. All sorts of ways to look at it.
Here are my thoughts, and maybe you all can give me what you think those lead to. Sorry, like I said, usually a little bit more focused. I like having freak because the joined moves that I would like to be using, and that I'm hoping, like, I feel like it almost makes us more freakish when I'm realizing that like the two of us are just a different thing, right? So that to me makes us kind of freakish. And also unleash your powers and the adult move wield your powers, which we potentially have access to, both use freak, right? And I feel like what I am getting from this session is that Vector and I are going to need to unleash a lot of powers and do a lot of stuff to make sure the timeline is safe. So I definitely don't want to lose any freak. And I don't really want to lose superior either, because in opposed to superior as in like better than in a snotty way, but like our mission is more important than the day-to-day things here, which feels like a different version of superior. So what I'm thinking is, I don't know how bad it would be to have like a -2 in mundane, but
I have a -2 in mundane.
well, between the two of us, that means we should never try to do anything mundane. But I'm thinking maybe that is what actually makes sense, because everything about what's happened today and what I'm thinking about my character is so far from mundane.
That's a perfectly legitimate interpretation of what's going on. I mean, you guys are confronting. I mean, for God's sakes, you're traveling in time. You've met some sort of otherworldly emanation or being or entity of some sort. There's a guy standing next to you that like has this cape that seems like it has an active star field in the middle of it whenever he's using his powers.
It's a little bit disconcerting. And then I can bring one up.
Yeah, you lower one and then you bring another up. If you're feeling more freaky, you can raise the freak. If you're feeling more dangerous, like you need to be more serious and determined about dealing with threats, your danger could go up. If you think you need to protect more people, your savior could go up.
I'm going to bring up my freak, I think. I think Vector has a 2 in danger, right? And I like I think between the two of us generally, and this is narratively, not just like strategically, because I don't like to do my stats strategically, that for us to be complementary will work better narratively if we have different strengths and weaknesses. So I think I'm going to leave my danger at 0 and make my freak 2.
Well, it also makes sense because your power set, the way you guys have described it, your power set's a little broader. Like you've learned to do things that he can't yet.
Yes, which I did not expect when we created these characters, but yeah, I think I'm a little bit more of a freak, and I'm now very focused and whatever on the task at hand.
Yeah, I think when you get your first distinction, it's pretty clear that's going to be the one that, where is it? Shouldering the burden. When you push yourself to do something your other half failed at or can't do.
Oh, but I want you to be able to do everything. But okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, does that narratively and otherwise make sense to everyone? Awesome. Thank you. Sorry it took me a minute. I'm I get a little
No,
dissociated with the
no problem.
anxiety.
Okay, that's our end of session move. We're ending on a little bit of a cliffhanger with this fight. I think a few of you are. I know some of you are definitely in the next session. I know some of you aren't. But your characters will stay in the character keeper if you happen to, if you're on the wait list for another session and you get into that session like you did for this one, or if everybody's staying. I know we've got at least one new guy next session. I think John's in there next session. So we will have at least one different person, and I can't remember who's out next session.
I'm out.
Well, your character will stay in the character keeper. So if you are able to get into one of the later sessions, I can deal with 5 at one time, but I can't deal with 6 or 7 in a mask game. But otherwise, I would happily do it. But whenever you're able to jump back in, whenever it comes up, your character's still going to be in there. So we'll just hit the ground running when we do. That's everything from me tonight. If you guys, we'll try and do kind of roses and thorns next time, I think, because we're running a little bit late, much later than I'd originally planned. So we'll try and catch up with that at the end of next session. I appreciate your patience with me running all this stuff and getting everything up and running and putting your characters together. You guys all obviously put in a ton of work with these folks. I really like them all. I can't wait to do crazy, wonderful, mad, insane, nutty things with all of them as we progress through the series. And I hope to see all of you next week. I'm going to stop the broadcast now. Good night, everybody. Hope you'll come back and see us the next time.